Chapter 1300 Black Flame's Fame. Chapter 1300 Black Flame's Fame. Chapter 1300 Black Flame's Fame. Evil Fire? This is interesting. As Shifeng looked at Evil Fire, he tried to remember his past. He hadn't actually heard this name before, yet based on the skill Evil Fire displayed, Shifeng concluded that the youth was extraordinary. Evil Fire should be someone powerful in God's domain. Otherwise, the youth wouldn't have here to challenge him so confidently. Evil Fire's words echoed throughout the sports arena. Meanwhile, everyone else in the venue had fallen silent. Everyone was stunned. Nobody could have imagined that Evil Fire's goal in this competition was to challenge someone. He hadn't even challenged someone in the real world, but someone in God's domain. What's going on? Crap, he's challenging someone to a fight in a game? Why can't he just do that in the game? Did he really have to do this here? What do you know? He is talking about Black Flame. Who is Black Flame? Is he someone amazing? You don't play God's domain, so you might not know, but Black Flame is the guild leader of Star Moon Kingdom's #1 guild. The secret pavilion even gave him the title Sword King. He is a mythical existence, and countless experts in God's domain want to challenge him. However, why would someone as important as Black Flame accept every challenge? Moreover, Black Flame's whereabouts are always a mystery. He's incredibly hard to find. I never thought that the Big Dipper Dojo would be related to Zero Wing. This is going to be interesting. Since Evil Fire is so strong in the real world, I wonder how strong he is in God's domain. Ha ha ha. This is interesting. I am definitely going to watch the fight between Evil Fire and Black Flame. I doubt Black Flame will agree to it. After all, he is Zero Wing's guild leader. This is where Evil Fire is smart. Big Dipper's head instructor is one of Zero Wing's upper echelons, so Big Dipper and Zero Wing must have a close relationship. Meanwhile, Evil Fire put his strength on display for everyone to see. Now that he has challenged Black Flame in front of so many people, he'd be hard to ignore. If Black Flame refuses the fight, not only will this smear Zero Wing's reputation, but it might also affect Big Dipper's reputation. Although many among the audience had no idea who Black Flame was, those who did promptly explained. Very quickly, everyone became familiar with the name. At the same time, they grew curious about how strong this Black Flame was. After all, someone as strong as Evil Fire had issued this dramatic request. For some time, this unexpected announcement boosted Big Dipper and Zero Wing's fame for some time. This little bastard. He used my friendly competition to challenge someone in a game. Xie Chiwen glared at Evil Fire, rage burning in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to murder the youth with his own hands. Had Evil Fire simply challenged Black Flame, he would not have minded it as much. The issue was that Evil Fire had defeated Jiyu Chen. Jiyu Chen was one of the White Tiger Dojo's geniuses, yet Evil Fire used the fame of his victory as a stepping stone to challenge Black Flame. This was a slap in the face for the White Tiger Dojo. Meanwhile, Shadow Sword and Turtle Dove, standing beside the main stage, were furious. This bastard overestimates himself. He dares to challenge the guild leader. Jinghong, make sure that you take care of him later. Turtle Dove's gaze burned with rage. If she didn't have to recuperate after using limit removal, she'd take care of the brat herself. Leave it to me. I'll make sure this kid spends several months in the hospital after the competition. Shadow Sword nodded seriously. In God's domain, challenging a guild's leader was the equivalent of declaring war on the entire guild. They could not let such an insult slide. Head instructor Sha. 2 days. I'll give you all 2 days to prepare. When the time comes, I'll head to White River City's Divine Coliseum for the challenge. Hopefully, Black Flame doesn't chicken out. Evil Fire smiled at Shifeng. He then tossed the microphone back to the referee before turning and leaving the stage gallantly. After catching the microphone, the referee noticed Evil Fire leaving the stage. Hurriedly, he reminded contestant Evil Fire. If you step off of the stage, you will forfeit the match. I have already achieved my goal. Consider this match my loss, Evil Fire responded nonchalantly. Saying so, Evil Fire descended the steps. He paid no attention to the competition's outcome. Everyone was stunned. He surrendered. He's not going to continue? Crap. He's too cool. Doesn't he want the 5 million credits? Does he need to go this far? Did he really join this competition just to challenge Black Flame? The audience was shocked as they watched Evil Fire leave the arena, ignoring the championship prize. Not many had the opportunity to earn 5 million credits. Meanwhile, due to Evil Fire forfeit, Zipping won the match. Naturally, the Big Dipper Dojo had secured the championship. As for the position of champion, neither Shadow Sword nor Turtle Dove cared, as both focused on God's domain. They were no longer interested in the fighting world. Hence, in the end, Zipping was crowned champion. This set off a commotion among the various dojos and training centers' upper echelons. The normal audience might not know much about Zipping's background, but they did. Zipping had been an intermediate disciple in the White Tiger Dojo. Now, however, he had left the dojo and won this competition's championship. This would seriously wound the White Tiger Dojo's reputation. Xie wore an ugly expression. Although he wanted to rage and kill Zipping personally, he had a much larger problem to deal with: Jiang Qianyuan, who had been silent for some time now. Chiwen, I believe that you know what to do. I want an explanation for this. Once we return, you will also explain yourself to the head hall master. You are aware of the consequences if we're not satisfied with your explanation. Jiang Qianyuan glanced at Xie. He then stood and walked away. Although he hadn't reprimanded Xie with his words, his chilling tone stole the strength from Xie legs. Jiang Qianyuan's anger was reasonable. After all, Zipping's performance today had been shocking. The youth definitely qualified to join the main branch for concentrated training, yet such a talented fighter had represented the Big Dipper Dojo. Explain to the head hall master? Xie suddenly felt faint. Compared to the White Tiger Dojo's head hall master, he was nothing. Although he was one of the dojo's geniuses, he was only a genius. He wasn't a powerhouse. Normally, he would encounter the head hall master a few times a year, yet he was told that he would have to present his case to such an important figure. Xie felt wronged. Although he had chosen Lu Huajie for personal reasons, his decision had been logical, as Lu Huajie had been much stronger than Zipping. However, Zipping had become so powerful, so much so that he had defeated Lu Huajie. How could he possibly know what was going on? As the competition ended, the audience gradually departed the arena. As they left, they discussed Evil Fire's challenge to Black Flame. Meanwhile, as Shifeng and the others prepared to leave the VIP stands, Gan Xingting stopped them. May I know what business instructor Gan has with us? Xiao Yu asked, smiling. They had won the friendly match fair and square. Even the White Tiger Dojo couldn't find an excuse to cause them trouble. They also had tens of thousands of witnesses. If the White Tiger Dojo tried to do something here, it would only humiliate the dojo further. Chapter 1301, Competition. Chapter 1301, Competition. Chapter 1301, Competition. Seeing Gan Xingting block Shifeng's group, the various upper echelons stopped to watch, curious to see what the White Tiger Dojo intended to do. The White Tiger Dojo had hosted this friendly competition to spread its fame throughout the 6 cities. Yet, the Big Dipper Dojo had benefited. It would be a lie to say that the White Tiger Dojo was not furious. Ignoring the stares, Gan Xingting glanced at Shifeng before turning to Xiao Yu. Displeased, he said, Hall Master Jiang would like to invite Head Instructor Shi for tea. May I know if Head Instructor Shi is free? An invite from Hall Master Jiang? Everyone who heard this was momentarily stunned. Jiang Qianyuan stood at the peak of the fighting industry. He was practically a living legend. Jiang Qianyuan had also played a large part in lifting the White Tiger Dojo to its current status. Moreover, Jiang Qianyuan's disciples were all extraordinary. He also had influence in various other industries. Countless people dreamed of forming a connection with the man. Unfortunately, very few ever had the opportunity. And yet Jiang Qianyuan had sent an invitation. Moreover, by the looks of it, he only wished to speak with Shifeng, not the others from Big Dipper. This, I'm afraid you'll have to ask Head Instructor Shi himself. Xiao Yu frowned before turning to Shifeng. He wasn't afraid of the White Tiger Dojo as a business rival. However, he was afraid of the White Tiger Dojo using other methods to deal with them. One such example was poaching Shifeng. In fact, these situations were common. The Big Dipper Dojo's achievements were all thanks to Shifeng. Now that Jiang Tianyuan wanted to meet with the man, Xiao Yu felt threatened. If Jiang Tianyuan poached Shifeng, developing the Big Dipper Dojo and the Big Dipper group further would be out of the question. The White Tiger Dojo possessed wealth and influence. Even if Shifeng became one of its branch hall masters, he would enjoy far more benefits than the Big Dipper group could ever hope to offer. However, it also would not do to refuse Jiang Tianyuan. After all, Jiang Tianyuan had taken the initiative to invite Shifeng. If they refused to meet with him, Jiang Tianyuan would consider it disrespect. If that happened, even if Jiang Tianyuan didn't act personally, his followers would be more than enough to make the Big Dipper group suffer. Hence, Xiao Yu could only leave the decision to Shifeng. Lead the way, Shifeng responded calmly and without hesitation. They were bound to meet sooner or later. After all, if he wanted Yu Ziping to join Zero Wing, he would have to overcome the hurdle known as Jiang Tianyuan first. Following which, Gan Xingting led Shifeng to the arena's top-floor lounge. Big brother, what do we do? If Jiang Tianyuan offers Shifeng something that he can't refuse, the Big Dipper Dojo will be finished, Xiao Yang asked anxiously as he watched Shifeng walk away. He had to admit that Shifeng had already become irreplaceable in Big Dipper. If Shifeng left, Big Dipper would backslide. We can't let Jiang Tianyuan poach him. No matter what it takes, we must convince him to stay. I heard that he and Ruoshi are close. Think of a way to convince her to help us. At most, we'll concede a slightly higher percentage of our profits when negotiating with the Zhao group. Xiao Yu was determined to compete with the White Tiger Dojo. In the top-floor lounge. As soon as Shifeng entered the room, he sensed 4 piercing gazes locking onto him. The origins of these ominous looks stood beside Jiang Tianyuan. 3 of these people were men, and 1 was a woman. All 4 wore black suits and appeared to be Jiang Tianyuan's bodyguards. Although they only stood there, they radiated a chilling aura. It was very obvious that they weren't like the pampered children, Ji Yu Chen and Yi Yuqing. These people must have experienced many trials and tribulations. Moreover, their auras were even more intense than Lei Bao's. Of course, that was not to say that these 4 people were stronger than Lei Bao. It was simply because Lei Bao kept his aura hidden. Shifeng didn't doubt that, if he showed the slightest hint of a threat, these 4 would immediately move to kill him. The White Tiger Dojo really is impressive. They've even hired such extraordinary bodyguards. Shifeng swept his gaze across these 4 people, noticing that they all had falcon tattoos on the back of the hands. This mark belonged to none other than the Black Falcon Alliance. The Black Falcon Alliance was a globally renowned mercenary alliance. Anyone who wanted this tattoo had to earn the Black Falcon Alliance's acknowledgement first. The organization's ordinary members simply weren't worthy. As Shifeng entered the room, Jiang Tianyuan smiled as he gestured to the sofa before him and said, "Sit." Only then did the 4 Black Falcon bodyguards relax a little. However, their gazes never once left Shifeng. Shifeng ignored the gazes as he approached Jiang Tianyuan. Seeing Shifeng's reaction, Jiang Tianyuan inwardly praised his guest. He was very familiar with his 4 bodyguards' strength. If all 4 worked together, even an internal force expert wouldn't walk away unscathed. Very few youngsters like Shifeng could remain unperturbed under their attention. After emptying the teacup placed before him, Shifeng smiled and asked, "Hall Master Jiang, may I know what business you wish to discuss?" "Young man, you are quite impatient. This isn't your average tea. This is the Green God Company's Harmony tea. Savoring it properly will aid in one's mental recovery and help expand one's mind," Jiang Tianyuan said, his heart aching as Shifeng downed the tea. Shifeng couldn't help his surprise. "So, this is the rumored Harmony tea." Shifeng looked at the teapot on the table incredulously. The taste had been unique. However, he had not paid much attention to it. Although he had considered the possibility that it might be poisoned, it was highly unlikely. Even if the White Tiger Dojo disregarded its reputation, Jiang Qianyuan would keep his intact. Harmony tea was unique to the Green God Company. Unfortunately, it was difficult to produce, so it wasn't sold to the public. Although its recovery and enhancement effects were not as strong as the S-rank nutrient fluid, it had an aspect that the nutrient fluids couldn't compare to. Unlike the S-rank nutrient fluid, Harmony tea had a milder energy. One might not notice any immediate effects, but in the long run, the tea could help improve a person's physique and extend their lifespan. It could also assist in developing one's mental potential. It was no wonder that, despite being over 50 years old, Jiang Qianyuan only appeared to be in his 30s. As expected of the White Tiger Dojo, they can get their hands on such a rare product. Shifeng was a little jealous. If he could obtain a large amount of Harmony tea, he would have a much easier time nurturing Zero Wings experts. He had to admit that, no matter what he wanted to do, resources were very important. Alright, I'll cut to the chase. I don't want to waste a youngster's time. I've asked you here for two things. Seeing Shifeng's interest in the Harmony tea, Jiang Qianyuan could not help but smile as he said, the first involves you zipping. I hope that you will allow him to return to the White Tiger Dojo. He has a lot of potential. He will have a better future if he develops in the White Tiger Dojo. That is up to him. I cannot choose for him. Shifeng waved his hand, showing that he had no interest in this issue. In reality, he did not care which dojo Yu Zipping developed in. He only cared about Yu Zipping's choices in God's domain. You are quite the mysterious youth. Shifeng's reply stunned Jiang Qianyuan. He simply couldn't fathom why Shifeng would willingly let go of such a talent so easily. However, he didn't think that Shifeng had lied. He had prepared counter-arguments if Shifeng refused, but his efforts had been wasted. Since that is the case, I'll have to trouble you to pass the message on. Now that the first issue has been addressed, let's get to the second matter. Please speak. The second matter involves you. I'd like to invite you to join the White Tiger Dojo. Chapter 1302, Daylight Robbery. Chapter 1302, Daylight Robbery. Join the White Tiger Dojo? Shifeng was slightly surprised by the offer. While it was common for dojos and training centers to poach personnel from each other, the targets were normally disciples. Instructors were rarely approached. After all, any instructor was considered a backbone of their establishment. Poaching an instructor was significantly more expensive than a disciple, not to mention a head instructor like himself. If they didn't offer a high enough position, they couldn't tempt him in the least. On the other hand, the White Tiger Dojo's upper echelons would never agree to offer him a position as high as head instructor. There were a limited number of head instructor positions available, and every head instructor was a part of the White Tiger Dojo's core. The influence they held was immense. Furthermore, he was only the head instructor of a recently established dojo. Trying to poach him by offering a head instructor position would be ludicrous. That's right. I'd like you to join us. However, rather than becoming one of the White Tiger Dojo's instructors, I'd like to invite you to become one of our combat instructors in God's domain, Jiang Qianyuan said. God's domain has become increasingly popular. The White Tiger Dojo intends to secure a piece of that pie. However, at the end of the day, there are some differences between combat in God's domain and combat in the real world. Hence, we wish to recruit some God's domain experts to train our disciples. I heard that Zero Wing is quite capable in this aspect. Hence, I wish to hire you as one of our God's domain instructors. Of course, you will receive the benefits of a White Tiger Dojo advanced instructor. Although the White Tiger Dojo had many instructors, there were extremely few advanced instructors. Every advanced instructor was also an internal force expert. Even hall masters such as himself treated these individuals with respect. Countless experts envied them for the benefits they received. Jiang Qianyuan's offer stunned his 4 bodyguards. Although they were bodyguards, they were also Black Falcon Alliance experts. Their understanding of the White Tiger Dojo was more acute than ordinary people. Hence, they knew just how powerful the White Tiger Dojo's advanced instructors were. Even the Black Falcon Alliance's mainstays had to treat them with respect. Sometimes, the Alliance would even request training from these instructors. It wasn't even a guarantee that these instructors would agree. It was very difficult to imagine that a youngster in his early 20s would have the opportunity to become an advanced instructor in the White Tiger Dojo. Forget about the advanced instructor position. What other benefits can you offer? Shifeng said, shaking his head. He wasn't particularly interested in becoming an advanced instructor in the White Tiger Dojo. While the fame and influence that came with the position were tempting, they were not particularly useful to him. Other benefits? Jiang Tianyuan gave Shifeng an odd look. Curiously, he asked, "What do you have in mind?" The position was a good opportunity to gain some renown in the fighting industry. Countless people coveted the position, yet Shifeng didn't seem interested. S-rank nutrient fluid or harmony tea, both are acceptable, Shifeng said after giving the matter some thought. As for the exact amount, that depends on how many players you'd like me to train. My price is roughly 20 people per bottle. I can guarantee that they will reach the trial tower's 5th floor within a short time. Both S-rank nutrient fluid and harmony tea would significantly help his guild's experts. They were far more practical than the position of advanced instructor. Moreover, Stone Forest Town had the battle arena. It was an excellent location to nurture experts. Including the fact that the White Tiger Dojo's disciples would start with sturdy foundations, it would not be difficult to train them to the 5th floor standard in a short time. Hearing Shifeng's words, the 4 bodyguards rolled their eyes. Each bottle of S-rank nutrient fluid sold for 1 million credits on the market, yet Shifeng wanted 1 bottle for training 20 experts. Even when the Black Falcon Alliance hired advanced instructors from the White Tiger Dojo to teach 300 of their elite members, it didn't pay 1 million credits per month. Shifeng's demand was simply daylight robbery. Your request is too expensive. Jiang Tianyuan frowned. He more or less understood God's domain. Hence, he knew just what kind of standards a 5th floor expert in God's domain possessed. Furthermore, the White Tiger Dojo's disciples were already combat experts. Even if they simply experimented themselves, they could easily reach the 5th floor. I am willing to offer 1 bottle for 100 players. The first session will include 500 players. At the very least, I want them to reach the trial tower's 6th floor within 1 month. Reaching the 6th floor within 1 month is too difficult. If you want all 500 to reach that standard, I'll take no less than 50 bottles. Otherwise, you'll have to find someone else, Hall Master Jiang. Shifeng hadn't expected Jiang Tianyuan to be so familiar with God's domain. Unfortunately, his understanding wasn't sufficiently thorough. Reaching the trial tower's 6th floor was the equivalent of being an expert in a first-rate guild. Even with strong foundations, it would take a lot of training to reach such a standard. Of course, some players with extraordinary talent could do it in a short time. However, not everyone was so gifted. Moreover, nurturing 500 people would cost a frightening amount of resources. The Blackwater Corporation had invested an astronomical amount of manpower and resources to nurture their experts, yet the White Tiger Dojo wanted to offer a few bottles of S-rank nutrient fluids to achieve the same. If he only charged 1 bottle per 100 people, he would very quickly go bankrupt. Seeing Shifeng unwilling to yield, Jiang Tianyuan fell silent for a moment. We can't possibly part with so many bottles. I can offer 10 at most. We can pay for the rest with credits, Jiang Tianyuan said, yielding slightly. S-rank nutrient fluids were extremely precious, even to the White Tiger Dojo. They used a large number during every national competition, not to mention international competitions. They did not have a lot to spare. I will only accept S-rank nutrient fluids and harmony tea. If Hall Master Jiang cannot make this decision at the moment, I can wait until you return and discuss it with your colleagues, Shifeng said resolutely. He had other ways to obtain credits. Moreover, he had already begun constructing his city. Once it was complete, the potential of virtual property would see explosive growth. At that time, he could easily rake in tons of credits. All right, then. I'll discuss it with the others once I return. However, I doubt that I'll receive a positive response, Jiang Tianyuan said, sighing. Following which, Shifeng left the lounge. After Shifeng left, someone else entered the lounge from a connected room. This man wore black and white martial artist robes. He felt indescribably approachable. The instant he entered this room, it felt as if the world revolved around him. Hallmaster, this kid simply doesn't know how to appreciate a favor. Not only wasn't he grateful for your personal invitation, but his demands were also exorbitant. Should I stir up some trouble for the Big Dipper dojo? The man asked angrily. Forget it. I had only asked on a whim. Even if he agrees to my offer, the final decision rests with the head hall master. After all, the other hall masters have other recommendations, Jiang Qianyuan said as he waved off the angry man's concern. Jinhai City is our problem now. With today's outcome, our plans have been interrupted. Tianji, you'll replace Chiwen as the branch manager here. Think of a way to restore the White Tiger Dojo's reputation here. Also, lead the first batch of disciples in God's domain and introduce them to the game. Help them acclimate to the game's mechanics. At the very least, make sure they aren't completely clueless when their training begins. Hall Master, rest assured, I have already seen to the necessary preparations. Every disciple has already been given an advanced virtual gaming helmet, while advanced disciples have access to virtual gaming cabins. By the time the other Hall Masters make their move, we will have gained a stable foothold in God's domain, the man named Tianji said, laughing. As soon as Shifeng returned to the Greenwater Villa, he logged back into God's domain. He had just discovered some clues on how to proceed with his Tier 2 promotion quest. Meanwhile, Evil Fire's challenge posed too much of a threat. If he did not deal with it properly, he would become a laughingstock in White River City. It might even affect the Big Dipper Dojo's reputation. He had no intentions of wasting today's results. Chapter 1303 Secret Alchemy Technique. Chapter 1303 Secret Alchemy Technique. Chapter 1303 Secret Alchemy Technique. In the quiet herb garden, Shifeng discovered quite a few level 65, Tier 3 demonic guards and two-headed demonic hounds in the courtyard as he logged in. Unlike the demonic beasts wandering about, these demonic guards patrolled the inner courtyard in groups of 10, with two demonic hounds accompanying each group. Now, it was practically impossible to reach the tower safely. Demonic Guard, Dark Creature, Demon. Level 65. HP 30 000 00030 000 Two-headed Demonic Hound, Dark Creature, Great Lord. Level 65. HP 52 000 00052 000 Even with Anna and Kite's assistance, taking on 12 Great Lords at the same time would be suicidal. What a tight security. This quest really isn't giving me any chances to break through. After observing the patrolling monster's pattern for over 10 minutes, Shifeng smiled bitterly. Because he had ransacked the herb garden earlier, Raymond wouldn't give him a second chance. Demons were far more intelligent than demonic beasts. Even if he attracted only one demon's attention, the entire squad would charge at him. They would not give him any opportunities to pick them off one by one. Moreover, several squads patrolled the inner courtyard. The moment he set foot in the inner courtyard, he wouldn't have to face just one squad. At the very least, 3 or 4 squads would chase him down. Demons were very similar to NPCs. They were capable of cooperation. Hence, the more demons in an area, the more combat power they could exhibit. Even a 1,000-man team couldn't defeat so many Tier 3 demons at the same time, not to mention one person. It is impossible to reach the tower by force. I have no choice but to find a different way. Shifeng temporarily gave up on the idea of breaking through the patrols. He then shifted his gaze to other locations. The inner courtyard was very large. Although there was only one main entrance, there were quite a few side entrances leading to the inner courtyard. Only, these side entrances were not as convenient as the main entrance, which led directly to the tower. As Shifeng was about to move towards one of the side entrances to take a look, a noise in the courtyard distracted him. Turning, Shifeng noticed 6 massive figures moving rapidly towards the herb garden. These figures didn't notice Shifeng as they dashed towards the silver moon tree. These 6 massive figures were none other than the silver moon bears that had fled earlier. After returning to the silver moon tree, The silver moon bears lazed about. These silver moon bears still dare to return? Shifeng was slightly confused as he watched the silver moon bears snooze peacefully. Although he had already killed off the Tier 3 demonic hunters that had guarded the garden earlier, the magic barrier Raymond had erected was still present. This magic array was a powerful deterrent against demonic beasts. This was also why Shifeng could log out of the game without worry. Yet, the 6 silver moon bears had resisted and barged into the herb garden. Shifeng had previously assumed that the silver moon bears had stayed close to the tree to protect the moonlight fruit. However, it would seem that was not the case. After all, he had already plundered everything the silver moon tree had to offer. Chem? That's not right. Why do these silver moon bears seem a little larger than the ones I saw from before? Seeing the slumbering silver moon bears, Shifeng activated omniscient eyes. Silver moon bear, demonic beast, great lord. Level 65. HP 80 0000080 0000000. These bears actually had 6 million more HP than the silver moon bears he had encountered earlier. Why have they grown stronger? Shifeng was slightly confused. Monsters didn't grow stronger unless they underwent an evolution or became a mutant. However, it was very clear that neither scenario had happened to these bears. Could there be something special near the silver moon tree? But I don't think I felt anything different when I was harvesting the moonlight fruits. Shifeng's curiosity grew. However, no matter how he racked his mind, he could only think of one possibility. There was no other explanation for why these silver moon bears would return to rest beside the silver moon tree shortly after he had killed the demonic hunters. Shifeng then slowly approached the silver moon tree. As he walked, he surveyed his surroundings using omniscient eyes constantly to spot for anything hidden. Although his senses did not pick up on anything when he had harvested the moonlight fruit, something may have hidden from his 5 senses. 80 yards. 75 yards. 70 yards. When Shifeng was almost within the silver moon bear's detection range, he heard the sound of a system notification. System, you have discovered an ancient teleportation array. System, transferable locations, outer courtyard entrance requires 107 luminaries shards, demon ceiling towers first floor main hall requires 207 luminaries shards, demon ceiling towers research area requires 507 luminaries shards. So, the 7 luminaries shards serve this purpose as well. Realization dawned on Shifeng when he heard the system notification. He thought the high teleportation fees were utterly fraudulent. Just teleporting to the demon ceiling tower's first floor cost 207 luminaries shards. He could synthesize 4 7 luminaries crystals with that amount. Currently, he only had 714 shards on him. He had no other choice. Either he paid the exorbitant fee or fought his way through the horde of demons. Shifeng chose to teleport to the research area without hesitation. Although the price of 500 shards was high, the moon god was famed for its knowledge in alchemy and magic arrays. Every one of the moon god's recipes that circulated the world was extremely valuable. The various Grandmaster alchemists coveted every one of these items. Needless to say, the moon god's research area would be extraordinary. Shifeng naturally could not pass up the opportunity to ransack the moon god's research room just to save some 7 luminaries shards. Immediately, Shifeng's vision blurred. In the blink of an eye, he found himself inside a spacious, crystal hall. The walls gave off a faint, blue radiance. Even without sunlight, light filled the hall. System, you have discovered the research area. This is the research room? Shifeng was slightly surprised as he surveyed his surroundings. There were 3 paths out of the hall, and each one led to a different location. One led to the alchemy room, another led to the research room, and the last was a hallway leading out of the research area. Shifeng was immensely excited. As a god's private tower, there was bound to be treasure. Immediately, Shifeng set off to explore the area. The moon god's alchemy room was like a whole new world. The room was as large as a football field, and there were all sorts of research materials and foundational books. There were also plenty of alchemy tools. Although the majority of the books and tools had been damaged beyond recognition due to the passing of time, the items that survived fascinated Shifeng. Any random alchemy tool he picked up was at least secret silver rank. If sold on the market, they could easily fetch over 10 gold. There were over 300 secret silver tools. There was also a complete set of fine gold alchemy tools. The set was easily as valuable as an epic item. However, no one would be so foolish as to sell the set, regardless of the price. The alchemy tool's value paled in comparison to the books he found. To alchemists, these books were priceless. Among the books he found, 9 were introductions to basic secret alchemy techniques. There were also 2 books about advanced secret alchemy techniques. These tomes were similar to secret technique tablets, but they were much easier to learn than the secret technique tablets. In the past, even Shadow's master alchemists had only learned 2 or 3 basic secret alchemy techniques, and the guild had paid a massive price to do so. Among them, the best secret technique had cost 1 epic item to learn. Of course, this price guaranteed that one would learn the secret technique. If the technique had only allowed 1 player to learn it, it would have only cost a few hundred gold. If an advanced alchemist could learn 3 to 5 basic secret techniques, their chances of becoming a master would double at the very minimum. Anyone who learned the advanced secret techniques would be guaranteed to become a master alchemist. That is. Suddenly, Shifeng noticed the surrounding mana flowing towards a dilapidated stone table a short distance away. The mana flow was slow and weak. If not for his improved physique after consuming the moonlight fruit, he would have been hard-pressed to notice this mana flow. Chapter 1304, Treasure Transforms. Chapter 1304, Treasure Transforms. Chapter 1304, Treasure Transforms. A thick layer of dust covered the stone tablet, and mana circulated around it. After taking a few steps towards the table, Shifeng was assaulted by an immense pressure. This is divine might. Although the divine might was faint, and he only sensed it once he was within 10 yards of the table, Shifeng could still feel himself grow a little sluggish. He was excited. Items only exuded divine might if they were frequently used or painstakingly crafted by a god. Needless to say, any item a god favored would be valuable. While resisting the divine might, Shifeng started to tidy up the table. Although divine might was very powerful, the table only exuded a very faint trace of it. Shifeng could still move normally as he stood less than a yard away from the table. Very quickly, Shifeng removed most of the dust covering the table. Books and materials littered the table. However, due to the passing of time, these items had long since eroded. Aside from some mysterious patterns carved into the table, Shifeng could not find anything noteworthy. Could the table itself be exuding the divine might? Shifeng could not help but frown. He could already tell that the table before him was a treasure. The faint trace of mana around the table would definitely aid refining and synthesis work. The table might even have other function that he hadn't noticed yet. In any case, it was undoubtedly useful for alchemists. Only, the stone table wasn't like other items. It could not be stored in a player's bag space. If Shifeng wanted to take it with him, he would have to carry it. Clearly, this wasn't a viable option. The alchemy table was the size of a pool table. Even if he could carry it, he did not have the leeway to carry it around with him. If I can equip one of the special alchemy rooms with this table, it could help the trading firm's alchemists. Shifeng struggled with his disappointment. Aside from alchemy tools, items such as this alchemy table were extremely precious. A good alchemy table could be as helpful as a basic secret alchemy technique. However, since Shifeng could not take the table with him, he had no choice but to take out the soul orb and absorb it. Since the alchemy table radiated divine might, it could be considered as a god crystal. One of the reasons he had chosen the Azura mode promotion quest was to obtain a large number of god crystals to lift the demon god Payman's seal. Please let it absorb this table. Shifeng silently prayed. He then clicked the Absorb Divine Power button on the Soul Orb's interface and selected the alchemy table as the target. Currently, no one owned the alchemy table. Shifeng wasn't sure if the Soul Orb could actually absorb an ownerless item. After all, he had never tried. The Soul Orb immediately began to emit a dark smoke, which soon enveloped the table. However, even after several seconds, There was no indication that the smoke was devouring its target. "Don't tell me it's not possible," Shifeng muttered worriedly. As soon as Shifeng had said so, however, the sound of a system notification reached his ears. "System, do you wish to allow the soul orb devour the magic alchemy table?" Without hesitation, Shifeng clicked the agree button. The magic alchemy table might even be more valuable than an epic weapon, but it was worthless if Shifeng couldn't take it with him. He would rather sacrifice such a treasure to lift the seal on the soul orb than leave it behind. As Shifeng clicked agree, the magic alchemy table began to radiate a golden glow. It was clearly trying to resist. Unfortunately, the soul orb was the fragment of the treasure of illusion, an item on par with a godly relic. How could a measly magic alchemy table resist it? In the next moment, the magic alchemy table melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Streams of golden air flowed into the soul orb. In less than a minute, the magic alchemy table had vanished. Meanwhile, the soul orb statistics had changed slightly. Aside from the absorbed god crystal counter increasing from 0 to 1, it now only required 95 player souls to form a drop of soul water. Absorbing god crystals has other effects. Shifeng could not help his surprise. He was instantly ecstatic. If he didn't need to absorb as many souls, he could craft soul water much faster. Once he finished absorbing the magic alchemy table, he activated omniscient eyes to search the room once again. If he relied only on his 5 senses, it would take him a long time to find other items like the magic alchemy table. He might even miss some. With the omniscient eyes, however, nothing within 100 yards of him could hide. Charlene didn't lie to me. A god's previous residence has plenty of god crystals to offer. After activating omniscient eyes, Shifeng discovered another potential god crystal. This one was a broken chair. Shifeng hadn't noticed the divine might radiating from it earlier due to a suppression magic array, and since it was a broken chair, he hadn't paid any attention to it. Following which, Shifeng absorbed this broken chair, increasing the god crystal counter to 2. To ensure that he didn't miss any god crystals, Shifeng scoured the alchemy room. He scanned the entire room with omniscient eyes again and again. This is surprising. A single room had 4 god crystals. This is a huge harvest. Shifeng's eyes burned with excitement when he saw that the soul orb only needed 6 more god crystals to remove Payman's seal. He only needed 80 souls now to produce a drop of soul water. The soul orb had been one of the 7 treasures. However, due to demon god Paimon, it couldn't exert its true strength. The flower of 7 sins had nurtured hundreds of experts in the past, even without unlocking the soul orb's full potential. If Shifeng could use the soul orb without fear of repercussions, the outcome would be incredible. After sweeping through the alchemy room, Shifeng made his way towards the research room. The research room was far more luxurious than the alchemy room as it had been used to invent high-end alchemical products. Until now, the only known location that could help players surpass the master threshold to become grandmasters were Titan City's special rooms. As soon as Shifeng entered the research room, he froze. Why is he here? Shifeng felt as if he had just fallen into a death trap when he saw the familiar figure wandering around the research room. This figure was none other than the dark wizard Raymond. Currently, Raymond was in the midst of concocting a potion. Fortunately for Shifeng, Raymond was very focused on his task. Including the several bookshelves that served as cover and the magic arrays to prevent interruption, Raymond did not discover Shifeng immediately. Even so, Shifeng could feel a headache brewing. The research room was different from the alchemy room. It had been well maintained and was in excellent condition. Needless to say, this room contained several treasures. Even without using omniscient eyes, Shifeng had already noticed 2 potential god crystals. If he used omniscient eyes, he would discover many more. He might even find enough to lift the soul orb's seal and still have some to repair other items. Not to mention, the moon god was famous for its alchemy research. Needless to say, the moon god had spent a lot of time in this room. Should I go in, or not? Shifeng knew that if he moved another 10 yards into the room, Raymond would discover him. If he were discovered, he would die. As Shifeng considered his options, an NPC alchemist, who assisted Raymond, began to walk towards Shifeng. Crap. Have I been discovered? Chapter 1305, Perfecting Sword's Orbit. Chapter 1305, Perfecting Sword's Orbit. Chapter 1305, Perfecting Sword's Orbit. Shifeng frowned as he watched the NPC alchemist approach. However, since this NPC alchemist didn't seem to be in a hurry, it did not seem as if he had been discovered. Unfortunately, the fact that the NPC was heading towards him was still a problem. Although the alchemist before him wasn't as terrifying as Raymond, it was still astoundingly powerful. Baron Woker, human, great mage. Level 70. HP 7 450 0007 450 000. NPCs might have less HP than monsters and demons of the same level, but when it came to combat techniques and the number of skills they possessed, NPCs were leaps and bounds above monsters and demons. While many experts could contend with Tier 3 monsters, if they tried fighting a Tier 3 NPC, they would be snuffed out of existence. Players' most hated enemies were NPCs. Although the research room was large, there was no place for Shifeng to hide. Moreover, there was only one path behind him. He couldn't avoid Baron Woker's detection. With no other choice, Shifeng retreated from the room temporarily. He planned to hide in the alchemy room while he thought of another way to loot the research room. However, after leaving the research room, Shifeng discovered a magic barrier sealing off the path towards the alchemy room. Unfortunately, the hallway he was in was void of obstructions. One could see everything in it with a single glance. Should I leave the tower for now? Shifeng glanced towards the path leading outside. However, he quickly shook the thought from his mind. The path to the alchemy room had been sealed off after he had explored and left it. If he left the research area now, he might not be able to get back in. If that happened, he would lose his opportunity to explore the research room. Aside from the god crystals, precious alchemy tools, and research materials the research room contained, Raymond's 7 luminaries sourcestone was enough of a reason to keep Shifeng from leaving. After all, how was he supposed to deal with the Demon King without it? It seems that I have no choice but to fight. Shifeng's gaze drifted back to the research room's door. With the situation as it was, both of his available options would lead to his death. His only hope was to defeat Baron Woker. He'd fail his quest if he didn't. Following which, Shifeng summoned Anna and Kite. When he had used the teleportation array to enter the tower earlier, Anna and Kite hadn't teleported with him. They should both still be in the herb garden, so he needed to summon them once again. Although Anna and Kite were not as high-tiered as Baron Woker, their combat power was no weaker than an ordinary Tier 3 NPCs. Shifeng had only wanted to avoid a fight with the NPC alchemist for fear of attracting Raymond's attention. If Raymond noticed him, only death would await him. However, now that he had retreated quite a distance away from the research room, he didn't need to hold back. I can't summon them. Shifeng looked at the 2 unresponsive summon guard scrolls in his hands, his chest tightening. Suddenly, the door to the research room opened slowly. The hallway was less than 40 yards long. As soon as the Baron Woker left the research room, he noticed Shifeng. Despicable intruder, you dare intrude on this holy land. Guards! Baron Woker shouted. Baron Woker was very loud, and his voice echoed throughout the research area. Damn it! Shifeng hadn't considered that Baron Woker would call for reinforcements. Not only couldn't he summon his personal guards, but now, he also had to deal with more enemies. Fortunately, a magic array isolated the research room from the outside world. No one within the room would hear them out here. Shifeng reacted quickly. Immediately, he activated the aura of time's absolute time, preventing all enemies within range from using any spells or tools. NPCs were no exception. Heavenly Dragon's power, Blade Liberation, Instant Strike. Shifeng wouldn't be careless against a Tier 3 NPC. Moreover, now that Baron Woker had called for reinforcements, he would die if he didn't end this before more enemies showed up. He instantly activated Twofold Berserk, his basic attributes skyrocketing. With the buff, his basic attributes far surpassed any Tier 3 player of the same level. In the blink of an eye, Shifeng appeared before Baron Woker. Sword's Orbit. A galaxy of stars appeared around Shifeng, resplendent and eye-catching. As Shifeng executed Sword's orbit, he felt the technique reach new heights. After consuming 5 moonlight fruits, his physique had permanently improved by 10%. He now had the physique of a Tier 2 player. Hence, his physical control and flexibility had skyrocketed. Berenwoker drowned in starlight. However, Berenwoker was a Tier 3 great mage. Even though he had been silenced, he still had the basic attributes of a Tier 3 NPC. His physical attacks with his staff still posed a threat. In God's domain, although magical classes typically bombarded their enemies with spells, that did not mean they were incapable of melee combat. They were just not fond of it. Silencing a magical class would drastically weaken their combat power. Unfortunately for Shifeng, Berenwoker was extremely adept with his staff, defending and attacking. It was clear that he was executing some kind of advanced combat technique. Players might not be able to predict Sword's orbit's attack trajectories, but the combat technique was nothing to Berenwoker. The NPC deflected every one of Shifeng's attacks. What a brilliant defensive combat technique! Shifeng was surprised. He had never thought that Berenwoker had grasped a combat technique. However, at the end of the day, Instant Strike was a Tier 2 taboo skill. Moreover, Sword's orbit had grown stronger. Even if Berenwoker focused on defense, he couldn't keep up with Shifeng's lightning-quick attacks. Among the 6 strikes Shifeng had sent at the mage, 3 had found their targets. With his cloth armor and weak defense, 3 massive damages appeared above Berenwoker's head. -91,618, -184,983, -93,189. In the blink of an eye, Berenwoker's HP bar had dropped by a sizable chunk. After taking damage, Berenwoker's anxiety surfaced on his pale features. Immediately, he began to retreat towards the research room while shouting, "Guards! Guards! Don't even think about running back into the room." Shifeng quickly circled to Berenwoker's back. Both the abyssal blade and killing ray bit into the mage, the impact sending the NPC flying over a dozen yards away, increasing the distance between Berenwoker and the research room. Realizing that he was in trouble, Berenwoker wisely felled in the opposite direction. However, Shifeng didn't give the NPC the opportunity to get away as he pointed the abyssal blade at the NPC. Abyssal bind. Suddenly, 9 pitch-black chains emerged from the ground and bound Berenwoker, holding him still for Shifeng. Phantom kill. 9 dragons slash. Unable to defend himself for 3 full seconds, Berenwoker's HP decreased rapidly. 95%. 90%. 80%. However, despite dealing frightening amounts of damage, Shifeng did not feel the pressure on him decrease in the slightest. When absolute time's 30-second duration ran out, Berenwoker would be able to save himself. Shifeng needed to kill the NPC before he ran out of time. Furthermore, absolute time was only fully effective against enemies of the same tier. Against Berenwoker, it wouldn't be as effective. According to Shifeng's estimates, he'd be lucky if the skill silenced Berenwoker for half of the duration. Trying to kill Berenwoker in 15 seconds would test Shifeng's explosive power. When Abyssal Bind and Instant Strike's duration ran out, Berenwoker sneered at his enemy. "Despicable intruder, I'm going to offer you to Lord Raymond as a guinea pig." Berenwoker retreated while blocking Shifeng's attacks, which had slowed significantly. "Guards! Get over here and save me." Berenwoker was only 20 yards away from the hallway's exit. Shifeng had only dealt so much damage and overcome Berenwoker's defensive technique due to Instant Strike increasing his attack speed by 500% and damage by 400%. Now that the taboo skill was on cooldown, Berenwoker had a much easier time defending himself. Even against Shifeng and his doppelganger, Berenwoker easily blocked half of the attacks. When Berenwoker's HP fell to 43% and the NPC was about to leave the hallway, Shifeng used everything he had left. Abyssal Curse. Suddenly, as if Berenwoker had just stepped in muck, he couldn't move or attack. Dragon Breath. Divine Providence. Both Shifeng and his doppelganger used Flame Burst simultaneously and dealt a total of 30 devastating attacks. Every attack devoured over 100,000 of Berenwoker's HP. Eventually, the NPC alchemist's HP fell to 0. Berenwoker glared at Shifeng with reluctance as he collapsed to the ground. Chapter 1306 Unforgivable Person. Chapter 1306 Unforgivable Person. Chapter 1306 Unforgivable Person. The instant Berenwoker's body hit the ground, a golden glow enveloped Shifeng's body as his experience bar increased from 82% of level 50 to 4% of level 51. He obtained more EXP from the NPC alchemist than from the 2 Tier 3 demonic hunters he had killed earlier. Suddenly, Shifeng heard the sound of a system notification. System, congratulations. You have killed the fallen Berenwoker. You may head to the Alchemists Association at a later time to retrieve the Hand of Alchemy as your reward. So, he was a fallen. No wonder why he gave so much EXP. Realization dawned on Shifeng as he read the system notification. He was also ecstatic. Fallen was a very rare title in God's domain as it was akin to receiving a bounty from the human race as a whole. The Fallen had committed far more severe crimes against the human race than Dark players. Normally, one only gained this title after destroying an NPC city. Obviously, anything capable of destroying an entire NPC city had to be terrifyingly powerful. In fact, it was very easy to tell how powerful Berenwoker actually was by his defensive combat technique. If not for absolute time silence effect, Shifeng wouldn't even have a corpse to speak of right now. As Berenwoker died, a pile of items had appeared around his corpse. At a glance, Shifeng counted at least 50 items. What a rich NPC. Shifeng was stunned. Although the majority of the loot consisted of various attribute gemstones, these gemstones were extraordinary. Even the most inferior among them were Tier 3. Several rare gemstones had also dropped. The Mana gemstone was one example. When equipped, the Mana gemstone increased a player's maximum mana by 3%. Each player could equip a maximum of 3 Mana gemstones. In the past, these gemstones easily fetched over 200 gold on the market. They had never gone out of style. There was also the Magic Barrier gemstone. When equipped, it would wrap players in a magic barrier that reduced all damage received by 2%. As with other gemstones, only 3 could be equipped at a time. It was an amazing gemstone for MTS. In the past, each had sold for 400 gold. Lastly, there was the Dexterity gemstone. When equipped, it improved a player's physique by 1%. It was also the most expensive gemstone on the market, with each easily selling for 1,000 gold in the past. However, it was as difficult to obtain as it was expensive. Shadow had only ever gotten its hands on a total of 11 Dexterity gemstones in the past. Yet, Shifeng had just obtained 4 Dexterity gemstones by killing Berenwoker. Shifeng had also obtained 6 Mana gemstones and 5 Magic Barrier gemstones. Including the other Tier 3 attribute gemstones and slightly rare gemstones, overall, Shifeng had earned over 10,000 gold's worth of gemstones by killing Berenwoker. Berenwoker had dropped 3 other items as well, 2 of which were equipment. One of the 2 pieces of equipment was a level 60 fine gold ring called Chanter's Ring. Although its basic attributes were average at best, when equipped, it increased the wearer's spellcasting speed by 2%. It was an effect that magic classes were desperate for. The other piece of equipment was a cape called Alchemist's Pledge. Although it was only a level 50 fine gold cape, and its basic attributes were very poor, the cape had 2 passive skills that any alchemist would want: Mental Focus and Soul of Alchemy. Mental Focus increased the wearer's focus when carrying out a task. Although it didn't seem like a special effect, it was even more useful than high mana density when one crafted items. Soul of Alchemy was even more impressive. The skill increased the wearer's alchemical success rate by 3% and production speed by 30%. With these passive skills, it would be a piece of cake for alchemists to raise their proficiency quickly. Moreover, these skills would assist players with their promotion to Master and Grandmaster rank. I can offer the Alchemist's Pledge as the benefit for the trading firm's chief alchemist. Shifeng smiled. Any guild or trading firm that wanted its members to improve quickly needed to provide a competitive environment. To gain this competitive edge, they needed to offer powerful benefits as motivation. While the candlelight trading firm offered various benefits, none of them were unique. Its benefits weren't particularly tempting to the truly excellent lifestyle players out there. However, if he offered the alchemist's pledge as a benefit for becoming Candlelight's chief alchemist, it would spark a burning passion in the trading firm's alchemists. He also had secret alchemy techniques. He could similarly use these techniques as a reward for alchemists who performed well. Following which, Shifeng picked up the last item Berenwoker had dropped. This item was an old, grey key. It was clear that it had originated from an ancient era and hadn't truly belonged to Berenwoker. Shifeng then clicked to check the item's introduction. However, he discovered that the item couldn't be appraised. Cannot be appraised? What kind of key is this? Shifeng's curiosity grew. Omniscient eyes. The system reported that he would need 20 seconds to appraise the key. The duration was even longer than when he appraised epic items. Time passed quickly. When the loading bar was finally complete, the grey key transformed. The key started to radiate a faint, golden glow. Moon God's secret key, unique. Possesses the power to control all magic arrays in the Moonlight Courtyard. Can also be used to lock or unlock the Moonlight Courtyard's rooms. So, they could enter and leave this place freely due to this key. Realization dawned on Shifeng. The Moon God created the Moonlight Courtyard. Even if the Moon God were no longer here, not just any entity could take up residence in the courtyard due to its many powerful traps. Even someone as powerful as Raymond would lose his life if he accidentally triggered a trap. However, it was a different story if Raymond had the Moon God's secret key. With this, he could move around the Moonlight Courtyard as if it were his own backyard. Raymond must have asked Berenwoker to pick something up for him. This is a convenient development. Shifeng suddenly thought of a plan to obtain the 7 Luminaries Source Stone. The 7 Luminaries Source Stone was the key component for completing his promotion quest. Without it, sealing the Demon King was practically impossible. Shifeng hadn't had a way to secure the stone as he wasn't strong enough to take our Raymond. However, the situation had changed. With the Moon God's secret key, he had full control over the Moonlight Courtyard. First, Shifeng had to rest. Since he had activated twofold Berserk, he was currently in a weakened state, his attributes having decreased significantly. With his current attributes, he wouldn't even have time to react to Raymond's casual attacks, much less steal the 7 Luminaries Source Stone. With nothing better to do in the meantime, Shifeng logged out of God's domain and entered his offline space. Unlike in the Dark Canyon, he still had access to his communications system in the offline space. The moment Shifeng logged out of God's domain, he received a series of system notifications, all of which were messages from within God's domain. Overall, he had received dozens of messages and several communication requests. Why are so many people trying to contact me? Shifeng gave the notifications an odd look. Aside from Aqua Rose and Gentle Snow, Phoenix Rain had even sent him urgent messages. Moreover, she had tried to call him 3 times. Has something happened? Shifeng opened his friends list and called Aqua Rose. Chapter 1307, Qualitatively Changing a Town. Chapter 1307, Qualitatively Changing a Town. Chapter 1307, Qualitatively Changing a Town. Inside the dim offline space, a few seconds after Shifeng made the call request, Aqua Rose connected to the video call. Currently, the video showed Aqua Rose out in the field, a slightly anxious expression on her face. Moreover, the sounds of an intense battle seemed to come from every direction. Guild leader, your communication system is finally up, Aqua Rose said, sighing with relief. Her frown relaxed slightly. I was prepared to send Blackie to go and knock on your cabin. Has something happened? Shifeng asked as he examined Aqua Rose's tired expression. He had logged back into God's domain a short time ago, and before he had returned, he hadn't received a single message, yet as soon as he logged out, so many people had tried to contact him. Whatever Aqua Rose wanted to talk about, it must be important. Otherwise, With Aqua Rose's capabilities, she would have solved the problem without contacting him. Since Gentle Snow had joined Zero Wing, Aqua Rose had a much easier time managing the guild's affairs. This was even after taking into account the guild's expansion. In fact, Aqua Rose and Gentle Snow were so capable that they could solve many issues without his help. Hence, he had been able to challenge his promotion quest without worrying about his guild. Not long ago, Heaven's Burial gained access to Evernite City. They've turned the Frozen Scar map into an Azura mode regional dungeon. Based on the information Evernite City published, a guild can gain access to the city once they kill the Frost King, the regional dungeon's final boss. Every large guild is focusing on raiding the regional dungeon. Quite a few superpowers have set their sights on this dark city. The competition in Frozen Scar is intense. I suggest that we pull Snow away from Lakeheart City and gather Zero Wing's forces in Frozen Scar. However, Snow has reported that the situation in Lakeheart City has started to improve, and she can't step away at the moment. I led a portion of our main forces into Frozen Scar, but we're having difficulty competing with those superpowers. Moreover, quite a few dark players have been slaughtering players around White River City, striking fear into the residents' hearts. Some players have even migrated to Starmoon City. We've dispatched quite a few experts to deal with the situation, but that means that I have even less manpower at my disposal. Evernite City was the only dark city in Starmoon Kingdom. It offered a few privileges that most ordinary NPC cities lacked. One of which was a teleportation array connected to Evernite City, which guilds could gain access to once they had enough reputation. The city would build this array in one of the guild's towns or cities, allowing the guild's players to teleport from the guild town or city to Evernite City with ease. Moreover, as a guild increased its status in Evernite City, it would gain access to more teleportation arrays. Ordinary NPC cities didn't have such a privilege to offer. Not only was this convenient for guilds, but it would also aid in their development. There wasn't a lot of distance between Starmoon City and Evernite City. Many players could use Evernite City as a waypoint to reach farther guild towns and grind in the nearby high-level maps without traveling for dozens of hours. Rather than put down roots in a particular guild town permanently, players could treat it like a temporary rest point, moving their operations at a moment's notice if necessary. Independent players would swarm to a guild town tethered to Evernite City, boosting the town's development. Access to Evernite City. Shifeng immediately came to a realization. It was no wonder why Aqua Rose was so nervous. Even Phoenix Rain had tried to contact him several times. If Zero Wing could gain access to Evernite City and secure a teleportation array for Stone Forest Town, it would transform the town. Of course, this was true for other guilds as well. It was no wonder why so many guilds were going mad over this matter. Even the various superpowers wanted in on the action. Guild leader, I'd like Snow to shift her focus away from Lakeheart City for now. If the other guilds kill the Frost King, it will become very difficult for us to gain access to Evernite City, Aqua Rose explained. No. Snow has to keep her focus in Lakeheart, Shifeng said, shaking his head. As for you, give up on raiding Frozen Scar for now. Give up. Shifeng's decision stunned Aqua Rose. Stone Forest Town had only become the #1 town in Starmoon Kingdom after overcoming many challenges. If they let the another guild kill the Frost King before them, they might not be able to maintain Stone Forest Town's position. That's right. Give up on raiding the Frost King. Instead, figure out a way to raid Blizzard Fortress, the team dungeon in the Frozen Scar. Try to get the first clear if possible. Shifeng nodded. Guild leader, that's a level 50, 100-man team dungeon. Aqua Rose was astonished. By the time we obtain the first clear, someone else will kill the Frost King. A level 50, 100-man team dungeon was a massive challenge to any guild at this stage of the game. Raiding one was far more difficult than raiding the Frost King. Based on their investigation, the Frost King was only a level 53 Grand Lord. The only reason it hadn't been raided yet was that no one had found its hiding place deep within the Frozen Scar. Players needed to kill many monsters and bosses in order to reach the final boss. Taking into account the Frozen Scar's severe environment, which increased players' stamina consumption by several times, progress to reach the Frost King was quite slow. They would be crazy to ignore the Frost King, the easier raid target, to challenge the Blizzard Fortress instead. The Frost King is an Ice-type boss. Fighting it without very high ice resistance is nearly impossible, but the weapons and equipment that drop in the Blizzard Fortress are somewhat unique. Almost every item offers high ice resistance. If we have these items, it'll be much easier to raid the Frost King. In any case, with so many guilds in the running, the competition won't conclude for some time. We'll use this opportunity to bolster our team's strength. It won't be too late to raid the Frost King once we've done so, Shifeng said, smiling. He did not bother to explain further details. All right, I understand. I'll try to raid the Blizzard Fortress as quickly as possible. In reality, Aqua Rose still had her doubts. She knew that they had tons of sea god's blessings in the guild warehouse. The potion could significantly increase a player's resistances. However, since Shifeng had given her an order, it wouldn't be wise to insist against it. She could only try to raid the dungeon as quickly as possible. Following which, Aqua Rose disconnected the call. Meanwhile, Shifeng smiled wryly at Aqua Rose's confusion. He could not reveal too much information. After all, no one had actually raided the Frost King yet. He couldn't just come out and say that players needed a minimum of 300 points of ice resistance to raid the boss. With such a high requirement, not even stacking 2 bottles of Sea God's Blessing would be enough. They needed other weapons and equipment to supplement for the missing points. Otherwise, players wouldn't stand a chance against the Frost King. Many guilds had contested for the right to enter Evernight City in the past as well. Similarly, these guilds had focused on clearing a straight path towards the Frost King, expending tons of manpower and resources in the process. However, only after encountering the Frost King did everyone realize how much of a nightmare the boss truly was. In the end, despite only being a Grand Lord, the Frost King had wiped out an army of hundreds of thousands of elite players, transforming them into ice sculptures. However, the fact that Heaven's Burial had gained access to Evernight City concerned Shifeng. When Evernight City had surfaced in the past, over 20 days had passed before the first guild had gained access to the city, yet it had only been a few days, and Heaven's Burial had already entered the city. It was inconceivable. To make matters worse, the first guild to gain access enjoyed additional benefits, which would make it far easier to gain guild reputation in Evernight City. It wouldn't be long before Heaven's Burial connected its guild town to Evernight City. This won't do. I need to hurry. After a 2-hour nap, Shifeng logged into God's domain once more. Chapter 1308, Challenging the Dark Wizard. Chapter 1308, Challenging the Dark Wizard. Chapter 1308, Challenging the Dark Wizard. I recovered faster than I expected. When Shifeng logged back into God's domain, he inspected his status window, noticing that his weakened state was already gone. He was back at his peak. Although the increased time flow in the Dark Canyon was part of the reason for his speedy recovery, the research area's high mana density, which was much higher than in the outside world, had helped. As a result, his weakened state's duration had decreased significantly. Following which, Shifeng took 2 Sea God's Blessing bottles from his bag and consumed them, his resistances, particularly magic resistance, increasing by a total of 150 points. He then retrieved an acceleration scroll and gave himself the acceleration buff. Following which, he switched his swordsmanship master title to the basic tyrant title, increasing his fortitude by 30 points, stamina by 20%, and all basic attributes by 5%. After making a series of adjustments, Shifeng pushed his basic attributes and movement speed to his current limit. While Shifeng had rested in his offline space, he had thought about how he would go about stealing the 7 Luminaries' Source Stone. He had run through several simulations in his mind, afraid of the unexpected. A Tier 5 Grand Wizard was an extremely dangerous opponent. The slightest mistake would result in his death. While Shifeng did not mind dying, his death would result in the loss of the Soul Orb. If he lost the Soul Orb now, he did not know how long it would take to find another one of the 7 treasures again. He couldn't lose the Soul Orb now. Hopefully, the system won't try to mess with me. Shifeng then carefully opened the research room door and snuck in. Raymond was still immersed in his alchemy in the room. He had blocked every distraction from his mind as he focused on his research. Meanwhile, he had placed the 7 luminaries source stone above a research table in the center of a small, crimson magic array not far from him. This small magic array utilized the 7 luminaries source stone as a power source, supplying the mana Raymond needed to craft his item. Shifeng did not rush to snatch the 7 luminaries source stone. Instead, he quietly examined the room's layout and the items around the room. As a God's domain expert, the first thing he needed to do when encountering a foreign environment was to adapt. This way, he could exert his maximum combat potential during a fight. This time, however, Shifeng didn't observe his surroundings just to adapt, but to locate the research room's treasures as well. He had only reached the Moon God's research room, which had been excellently maintained, after many challenges. He'd do himself a disservice if he stole the 7 luminaries source stone and ignored everything else. Every item in the research room was sorely tempting. The alchemy tools on the research tables alone were dark gold rank. Even after a decade of playing God's domain, such tools had been incredibly precious. Every alchemist constantly hunted such treasures. Shifeng even spotted a complete set on one of the research tables. Aside from the alchemy tools, the research room had quite a few items that radiated divine might. The Moon God must have used them all frequently. Any one of these items could easily sell for over 100,000 magic crystals in an auction. There were also quite a few tattered designs on an experiment table. These designs had been crafted with extremely valuable materials. Rather than the standard sheepskin parchment, the designs had been drawn on dragon skin. Only gods would dare use a dragon's skin as parchment. Fortunately, dragon skin parchment would survive storage for tens of thousands of years. As he carefully analyzed the research room, shock bubbled in Shifeng's chest. The research room was a treasure trove. It could likely rival the Fallen Ark. If only the dark wizard Raymond weren't present. Raymond finally completed the item he had been working on. A golden ring, with a jewel radiating a 7-colored brilliance in its center, floated in the air before him. The jewel also released a frightening pressure. Even Shifeng, who stood far outside of the research room's magic array, felt a significant weight bearing down on him. What is that? Shifeng stared at the golden ring curiously. Very few items in God's domain, aside from items gods had used, emitted that kind of pressure. Every one of these items was a masterpiece. The golden ring's pressure could even rival divine might. After completing the ring, Raymond's hands stopped moving as he began to chant an incantation. A 4-fold magic array then appeared above the golden ring, absorbing the surrounding mana and forcing it into the ring. Like a massive whale taking a breath, the golden ring sucked in the dense mana, yet despite absorbing so much, the ring showed no signs of slowing. A chance. Watching the golden ring absorb mana, Shifeng knew that this was the crucial moment to act. If he missed this opportunity, he wasn't likely to get another. Immediately, Shifeng activated Phantom Kill and had his doppelganger stay near the research room's entrance, keeping the door open. He then dashed towards Raymond. Raymond, Dark Shaman King, Human, Grand Wizard. Level 72. HP. Although Raymond was only level 72, he was a Tier 5 NPC. He detected the fluctuations in the magic array almost immediately, which Shifeng had caused as he ran through it. When Raymond realized that he had an intruder, his gaze turned cold. Die. Without hesitation, Raymond waved his wrinkled arm and gestured towards Shifeng. 5 magic arrays of different colors formed at his fingertips, overlapping. The amount of mana around Raymond's palm even made Shifeng shudder with fear. This is insane. He's using Elemental Crush, right off the bat? As soon as Shifeng saw the 5 magic arrays, he recognized the spell. Elemental Crush was a Tier 5, miniature destruction spell. Although the attack's range wasn't large, it was even more frightening than a Tier 5, large-scale destruction spell. If struck, even MTS of the same tier and level would lose half of their HP instantly. However, the spell had a flaw: its runes were overly complex. The chant was also quite long. Tier 5 Grand Wizards didn't usually use this spell in PvP. However, Raymond could forego both the incantation and runes, casting the spell instantly. Suddenly, space around Shifeng started to crumble. Everything around him turned dark. In the blink of an eye, everything within 30 yards had been turned to dust. However, just as Raymond thought he had dealt with the intruder and was about to return his focus to the magic array above the golden ring, a figure appeared before him. Close one. Shifeng could not help but glance at his previous position, fear lingering in his heart. Fortunately, he had instant strike, which allowed him to teleport to his target. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dodged the spell with his movement speed. Despicable mortal, die. Realizing that Shifeng was still alive, Raymond grew serious as he activated his domain. In God's domain, there was a saying that those without domains were nothing more than ants underfoot. As long as one activated a domain, they could suppress their enemies. Against weaker opponents, it would be a one-sided slaughter. However, Shifeng had prepared for Raymond's domain. As soon as he appeared before Raymond, he activated absolute time, freezing the area's mana. Even the Dark Shaman King couldn't access the mana. Raymond's spreading domain crumbled instantly. Shifeng sighed with relief. He knew that absolute time wouldn't silence Raymond for more than 10 seconds. He could accept that as long as it was effective against the NPC for even a brief moment. Without hesitation, Shifeng activated Power of Darkness and Windwalk before dashing towards the 7 Luminaries' Source Stone. Damnable ant! Seeing Shifeng run past him, flames of rage burned in Raymond's eyes as he smashed the black, metallic staff in his other hand towards Shifeng. Although Raymond couldn't use his spells, Raymond's physique, strength, and speed were leaps and bounds above the swordsman's. Even without using combat techniques, he could kill Shifeng instantly. Peng! A metallic clang echoed when the staff crashed into Shifeng. However, the staff stopped half an inch before Shifeng, unable to proceed. Defensive blade. Raymond was helpless against this move. He was a magical class. Without his spells, he couldn't deplete defensive blade's block counts quickly. He could only smash his staff into Shifeng repeatedly to deplete the block counts. This gave Shifeng enough time to reach the 7 Luminaries' Source Stone above the research table. With lightning-quick reactions, Shifeng grabbed the Source Stone and stored it in his bag space. He then turned and fled to another research table. Bastard! You bastard! You dare steal what's mine! Do you think someone like you can last against me for long? Suddenly, Raymond's white hair darkened to black. His wrinkles started to smooth as he began to appear youthful. His aura also seemed to grow more powerful. Taste the wrath of the Dark Shaman King. Chapter 1309 Ring of Gospel. Chapter 1309 Ring of Gospel. Chapter 1309 Ring of Gospel. As soon as Raymond finished speaking, a crisp shattering sound rang out inside the research room. The previously frozen mana in the room promptly went berserk, surging towards Raymond. Meanwhile, Raymond began transforming from an elderly man into a dignified youth at a rate visible to the naked eye. In simple terms, the silence effect was achieved through freezing the target's mana flow or retarding it considerably. For Raymond, someone who had gazed into the abyss of magic, resolving such a situation was not a difficult task. Meanwhile, one of the most effective ways to remove a silence debuff was to forcibly break free from the restrictions placed on their mana. This was also the reason why the silence debuff was very weak against high-tiered existences. Disappear from this world. At this moment, not only was Raymond chanting an incantation, but he was also writing runes in midair. Meanwhile, both his chanting and writing speeds were beyond anything Shifeng had ever seen before. Despite Shifeng having activated a berserk skill and being under the effect of various acceleration skills, before he could even reach the next research table, 4 magic arrays had already appeared around Raymond. Meanwhile, each magic array gathered a frightening amount of mana. If Phoenix Rain were present right now, she would definitely be stupefied by this scene. The reason for this was the technique Raymond had just displayed. It was literally the ideal sought after by all magical class players. Quadruple speed casting. Moreover, every spell Raymond cast was a Tier 5 spell capable of heavily injuring Tier 5 classes. If struck by all 4 spells, Even a Tier 5 player would die instantly. In the next moment, spatial tiers formed around Shifeng, surrounding him. Following which, flames, lightning, and ice began descending from above, sealing off Shifeng's paths of retreat completely. Boom! 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 A series of explosions rang out in the research room in rapid succession. If not for this room being the creation of the moon god, it would have been reduced to a pile of rubble already. However, after suffering this bombardment, Shifeng still managed to arrive at the research table safely, where he frantically grabbed everything he could. He did not pay attention to what his hands picked up as he tossed everything into his bag. He even went as far as implementing Sword's orbit with his arms to increase his looting efficiency. After plundering everything on the research table, he headed straight for the experiment table with the dragon skin parchments on it. Damnable ant! Who gave you the 7 luminaries ring? Raymond shouted reflexively in both surprise and rage when he noticed the golden divine runes flowing around Shifeng's body. In the next instant, however, Raymond's eyes turned red with greed and passion. Don't think that the 7 luminaries ring's power can save you. Before me, nobody can escape. If you hand over the 7 luminaries ring now, I can promise to turn you into my servant and let you have the opportunity to come into contact with the abyss of magic. However, Shifeng did not respond to Raymond's demand as he continued his looting operation without pause. Shifeng knew full well that the aura of Earth's absolute defense would not last long. Moreover, even skills that provided invulnerability couldn't offer unlimited protection against someone like the Black Shaman King. After all, nothing was truly invulnerable. It was only a matter of whether one was strong enough to overcome a particular invulnerability effect. If the 7 luminaries ring he possessed right now were the real deal, needless to say, defending against Raymond's attacks would be a piece of cake. However, the 7 luminaries ring he possessed was a replica. It wasn't a godly relic. Just being able to ward off Raymond's quadruple casting was already fortunate. If Raymond really got serious, absolute defense most likely wouldn't be able to stop the NPC's attacks. Since you're not willing to hand it over, become my living puppet. Raymond began chanting once again. Unlike before, however, his chanting speed was not particularly fast this time. Moreover, the runes he wrote were incomparably complex. Even Shifeng, someone who had conducted plenty of research into runes and magic arrays, could not identify what those runes were meant for. Not daring to be careless, Shifeng started looting the items on the experiment table as soon as he arrived before it. Absolute defense's duration had less than 2 seconds remaining. Although he could not plunder the entire experiment table, he took most of the items on it. At this time, Raymond pointed his staff at Shifeng and shouted, "Shatter!" In the next moment, a black beam of light shot at Shifeng's body. Immediately, the divine runes surrounding Shifeng's body started crumbling. It was obvious that Raymond's attack had broken through absolute defense. "Become my loyal slave." Raymond then slammed the butt of his staff on the floor. A shadow instantly formed beneath Shifeng's feet. Grey strands slowly rose from the shadow, binding Shifeng's body. Why does he know even the necromancer class's dark bondage? Shifeng frowned when he saw the grey strands wrapped around his feet. Dark bondage was a tier 4 spell that could turn a living creature into one's slave. The success rate of the spell depended on the user's and target's levels and tiers. On average, the success rate was very low. Of course, this was only in the case of players. It was a different story if a powerful NPC like Raymond cast the spell. When nearly half of Shifeng's body was bound, Raymond revealed a sneer on his face. Divine steps. Suddenly, 10 doppelgangers formed around Shifeng. He then chose to switch positions with one of them. Even a spell like Dark Bondage couldn't stop Shifeng from swapping places with his doppelganger. He promptly took another item from the experiment table. However, as soon as Shifeng stored the item into his bag, he suddenly found himself as well as his 10 doppelgangers appearing before Raymond. What? He knows even the Tier 5 curse space conversion. Shifeng was surprised as he swept a glance at his surroundings. Hurriedly, he started switching places with his other doppelgangers, which were slightly farther away from Raymond. At this time, Raymond also activated his domain once more, directly suppressing Shifeng and preventing him from moving whatsoever. Only Shifeng's 10 doppelgangers, which were invulnerable like Shifeng, could still move. However, no matter where the doppelgangers went, as long as they remained inside the range of Raymond's domain, even if Shifeng switched places with them, he still couldn't budge from there. A futile effort. Raymond waved his staff once more, and his surroundings turned into a world of frost, trapping Shifeng's doppelgangers. Although the doppelgangers were invulnerable, they did not possess the ability to pass through physical objects. Without any strength of their own, they could only remain trapped inside the ice. Is that so? At this moment, Shifeng revealed a faint smile as he switched places with the doppelganger that stood less than a yard away from the golden ring. He had not hurried to leave and dared to take sure, bold actions, all because he had suddenly recalled something about this golden ring. In the past, the alliance of superpowers had been able to kill the Dark Shaman King because they had managed to destroy one of the NPC's items at the cost of plenty of sacrifices. That item was the Ring of Gospel. It was also the key to killing the Dark Shaman King. The item Raymond had been producing happened to have the shape of a circular ring. As a result, Shifeng could not help but link it with the Ring of Gospel. Since he had already made it all the way here, he naturally could not let such a good opportunity get away. Despicable rat. Die. When Raymond saw Shifeng grabbing the golden ring, he was like a cat that just got its tail stepped on. He literally jumped up in anger before bombarding Shifeng with one tier 4 spell after another. At this point, he had lost all intentions of making Shifeng a puppet. One after another, silvery white frost lances began shooting at Shifeng from all directions. The cold air radiated by every one of these frost lances made Shifeng shudder. He could also faintly see golden arcs of electricity wreathing these frost lances. As they moved, even their surrounding space showed signs of shattering. Shifeng did not doubt that even one hit from these frost lances would kill him instantly. I can't stay here any longer. This time, Shifeng knew that Raymond was no longer holding back. Immediately, he chose to switch positions with the doppelganger summoned through Phantom Kill. Boom! 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 As soon as he switched positions, hundreds of frost lances pierced his doppelganger, killing it on the spot. The doppelganger did not even have time to react. He really is too strong. Standing by the research room's entrance, Shifeng was greatly shocked by this scene. He hurriedly left the room, not daring to remain even a moment longer. Meanwhile, as soon as he exited, he sealed the door, using the moon god's secret key. The instant the room was sealed, Shifeng felt the door shaking violently. Chapter 1310 Moon God's Secret Record. Chapter 1310 Moon God's Secret Record. Chapter 1310 Moon God's Secret Record. The door of the research room was made using a special method. Moreover, the moon god had reinforced it with divine runes. Even a tier 5 grand wizard would have difficulty leaving a scratch on it. However, the violent tremors of the door made Shifeng doubt it could hold back the Dark Shaman King. After all, Raymond was an NPC capable of becoming the final boss of one of God's domain's major expansion packs. He definitely was not an existence that ordinary tier 5 NPCs could compare to. In retrospect, considering how several superpowers had needed to work together to defeat Raymond, Shifeng could only conclude that Raymond had to be at the demigod standard already. Thinking up to this point, Shifeng felt that he still wasn't safe. He left the research area right away. When he entered the corridor leading out of the research area, he even used the moon god's secret key to seal off the corridor. Although the corridor's seal was not as powerful as the door of the research room, it could more or less stop Raymond for a short while. After Shifeng left the research area, it was as if he had entered a whole other world. When he exited the corridor, he arrived at a place filled with greenery. He could see hills and waterfalls in the distance as well as hear bird calls and smell flowers. He could also pick up the roars of many demonic beasts. At the same time, he spotted many demonic patrol squads making the rounds of the forest paths. Although the guards in these demonic patrol squads were not as strong as the demons guarding the inner courtyard, each patrol still consisted of 1 level 70, tier 3 demonic guard and 9 level 70, tier 2 demonic soldiers. To Shifeng, who currently couldn't summon his personal guards and mount, they were extremely dangerous opponents. Immediately after, the sound of a system notification entered Shifeng's ears. System, you have discovered the top floor of the Demon Ceiling Tower, Moon God Space. What? This is the top floor of the Demon Ceiling Tower? Shifeng was stunned when he looked at the system notification. Based on the system map, the Demon Ceiling Tower had a total of 36 floors. Meanwhile, each floor could easily fit a small town inside. If Shifeng had tried climbing from the first floor to the top floor, he would have needed plenty of time. Although he had already steeled himself for a long battle, climbing all 36 floors would not have been an easy task. Previously, Shifeng had still thought that spending 507 luminaries shards to teleport to the research area had not been worth it. Now, however, it would seem that he had just made a huge profit. Immediately, Shifeng found a safe location to hide before adjusting his mental state and organizing the items he looted. From beginning to end, his exchange with Raymond had lasted only 7 or 8 seconds. However, despite this brevity, his stamina and concentration had been depleted as if he had fought normally for several hours. The exchange had taken a severe toll on his concentration, in particular. Due to the frightening pressure Raymond gave off, as well as the NPC's domain, every second he spent fleeing from the NPC was equivalent to fighting against an opponent of equal strength for an hour. In fact, from the moment Shifeng started facing off against Raymond until he exited the research room, Shifeng had not even taken a breath. After all, even the slightest delay in his actions could lead to his death, rendering all his efforts since entering God's domain useless. One could imagine just how much pressure Shifeng felt during those short 7 or 8 seconds. Hence, Shifeng wished to slowly relax his tense mental state. Meanwhile, at the Azura mode regional dungeon Frozen Scar, many of Starmoon Kingdom's powerful and well-known guilds were currently gathered here. There were even large guilds from other kingdoms and empires coming to raid the regional dungeon. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of elite and expert players were at Frozen Scar, and the competition here was considerably intense. In just the few short hours since Frozen Scar became a regional dungeon, over 50,000 elite players had already died in it. This situation immediately deterred members of small guilds and independent players from entering the dungeon. However, in one forest filled with snow, a 1,000-man legion was calmly pressing forward. The legion easily killed off any level 46 Lord-ranked snow yetis and level 45 elite-ranked snow giants and steadily advanced towards the location of the Frost King. When the elite legions of other guilds came across this legion, they would hurriedly avoid it, afraid of provoking it. After all, the guild this 1,000-man legion belonged to was none other than Heaven's Burial, the official number 2 guild of Starmoon Kingdom. Currently, Singular Burial was even personally leading this elite legion. Among the members of this legion, even the weakest was level 41, whereas the experts were level 42. There were even some experts that had reached level 43. Meanwhile, these players were all geared in level 40 top-tier equipment, with the most inferior being fine gold rank and the majority being dark gold rank. The strongest among all these players was Singular Burial. Although he was only level 43, he was equipped with the level 45 dark gold set equipment for rangers, the 100 beast set, and wielded a pitch-black double-stringed bone bow that gave off the epic rank glow effect. Despite going up against over 50 frost yetis and 1,000 frost giants, Singular Burial managed to command his team properly and keep the situation under control. In the end, Heaven's Burial's elite legion bombarded these monsters to death without even a break in their front line. This situation inspired serious envy in the players from other guilds watching from afar. Just as Singular Burial and his team were cleaning up the remnant frost giants, he suddenly received a communication request. "Ghost, did something happen on your side?" Singular Burial asked as he looked at the indifferent level 43 assassin in the screen. "Something happened over at Zero Wings' side," Ghost Shadow reported. For some reason, instead of advancing towards the Frost King, Zero Wings' team has actually turned around and is currently headed towards the Blizzard Fortress. By the looks of it, they are planning on raiding the dungeon. Raiding the Blizzard Fortress? Singular Burial could not help but be stunned. "Are you sure?" Blizzard Fortress is a level 50 large-scale team dungeon. Why are they even trying to raid it? For them to give up on the Frost King so willingly, could they have discovered something we don't know? The information regarding the Frost King was something he had released to the public himself. Meanwhile, his reason for doing so was to lure Zero Wing's main force over and use the opportunity to weaken it. At the same time, he could also complete his quest. I don't know. However, the information about them heading towards the Blizzard Fortress is definitely true. As for Zero Wing's elite members, they have also left Frozen Scar already. Ghost Shadow was similarly confused by this situation. Killing the Frost King would grant a guild access to Evernight City, yet Zero Wing had actually given up such a good opportunity in favor of raiding a dungeon. Moreover, it was even a level 50 large-scale team dungeon. Even he, an expert who had fought in the virtual gaming world for many years now, could not understand what Zero Wing was trying to do. Forget it. Ignore them for now. You and your men regroup with us as well. The number of guilds joining the competition is growing increasingly higher, so we need to hurry up ourselves. Once we're done with our quest, Star Moon Kingdom will become Heaven's Burial's possession. Even if Zero Wing manages to raid the dungeon, it would be useless, Singular Burial said, sneering. I've really lucked out this time. Shifeng could not help sighing happily as he looked at his bag space. Previously, all of his attention had been on Raymond. Hence, when he was looting, he simply shoved everything he could get his hands on into his bag without caring what they were. Now that he got to take a closer look, however, even Shifeng himself was stupefied by the spoils. Among the items he looted were 8 dark gold alchemy tools. There was also a set of dark gold alchemy tools made from magic jade called the Green Jade set. If placed on the market, this set could easily sell for over 30,000 gold. On its own, magic jade possessed the ability to absorb mana from its surroundings. When made into an alchemy tool, it could pull out the best effects of herbs. In total, the complete set of magic jade alchemy tools increased alchemy success rates by 10% and alchemy production speeds by 20%. There was also a 3% chance for the created product to have its effects strengthened. In the past, even Grandmaster alchemists had been extremely eager to get their hands on such a set. Unfortunately, even super guilds had a very difficult time obtaining a set of dark gold alchemy tools, not to mention something like the Green Jade set. Aside from alchemy tools, Shifeng's bag had many sheets of ancient, tattered pages. Recorded on these pages were recipes made by the moon god. However, as the pages were dilapidated, they could not be used. After Shifeng used omniscient eyes to appraise one of the tattered pages, the sound of a system notification suddenly entered his ears. System, ancient tattered page discovered. Repairing it requires 100 magic crystals. Dragonskin parchment sure is amazing. Even after enduring tens of thousands of years of corrosion, it can still be repaired using magic crystals. No wonder gods would use dragonskin parchment to make records in ancient times. Realization dawned upon Shifeng. Having picked up so many tattered pages, he never hoped that every one of them would still be usable. He would be fine with just one. At the very least, he wouldn't have wasted his precious time trying to collect all these tattered pages. Hence, it was truly surprising that the pages could be repaired. Shifeng started repairing page after page right away. As he repaired the pages, he also organized them based on the page numbers, and surprisingly, the pages actually automatically combined. After around 10 minutes passed, he was finally done repairing all 31 pages he picked up. Suddenly, the combined pages transformed into a thick, ancient book that radiated a faint trace of divine might. Meanwhile, there were 4 words, written in the ancient divine language, on the cover of this ancient book. Moon God's Secret Record. Chapter 1311, Upgrading to Fragmented Legendary Rank. Chapter 1311, Upgrading to Fragmented Legendary Rank. Chapter 1311, Upgrading to Fragmented Legendary Rank. What? This is the Moon God's secret record? Shifeng stared at the ancient book in his hands time and again, his heart unable to calm down even after some time. Even his breathing right now had bated. There were 5 great alchemy scriptures in God's domain. These 5 great alchemy scriptures were like the Holy Bible to alchemists and were highly sought after. In the past, every alchemist that had managed to get their hands on these alchemy scriptures had become famous individuals in the alchemy world. Meanwhile, one of the 5 great alchemy scriptures was the moon god's secret record. Legend had it that the moon god had edited it extensively. However, many wars had also been waged between kingdoms and empires because of the moon god's secret record, and it ended up divided and scattered all over God's domain. Eventually, with the passage of time, the moon god's secret record had disappeared entirely. Shifeng had never imagined that he would actually come across the moon god's secret record, and even obtain it, in the moonlight courtyard. Following which, he clicked excitedly to check the attribute panel of the moon god's secret record. Moon God's Secret Record, Volume 1. A detailed compilation of the moon god's experiences and techniques in alchemy. There is a total of 3 volumes. One can obtain the moon god's legacy when all 3 volumes are collected. It's actually split into 3 volumes. Shifeng's initially passionate heart cooled down immediately. However, after giving the matter some thought, he found the situation reasonable. The moon god's secret record had been contested by ancient kingdoms and empires many times before. On the other hand, it had been many years since anyone had set foot into the moonlight courtyard. It was clear that the moon god's secret record here did not possess any relation to the ancient wars waged on the continent of God's domain. The only explanation for there being a copy here was that there wasn't only one moon god's secret record. Nevertheless, Shifeng was already very satisfied with this outcome. Among the 3 volumes comprising the moon god's secret record, the first volume contained information regarding the various materials in God's domain. It was like an alchemy encyclopedia. With this book, players could understand the various properties of alchemy materials and establish a solid foundation for when they were trying to create new recipes. The reason why Titan City's research rooms could aid players in reaching the Master and Grandmaster ranks was mainly because of the wealth of information contained within the rooms. Meanwhile, the research information of the moon god was most likely not one bit inferior when compared to the alchemy database of Titan City. The candlelight trading firm would have a much easier time nurturing master alchemists. Following which, Shifeng stored the moon god's secret record and began checking the other items he obtained. Although Shifeng had placed all of his attention on Raymond inside the research room, before he sprang into action, he had already planned to take away the several items that radiated divine might. Excellent! There are exactly 6 god crystals. Shifeng grew excited as he looked at the 6 items radiating divine might in his bag. Currently, the soul orb was missing only 6 god crystals to remove the first seal Paimon placed. Although there were bound to be many more god crystals, which he had not managed to discover, left inside the research room, Shifeng had spotted only 8 items with a high potential of being used as god crystals. Meanwhile, as he was looting the room, he had managed to grab only 7 of those items. If he had tried going for the last one, there was over a 90% chance that Raymond would have killed him. Fortunately, his insight wasn't too bad. Of the 7 possibles he picked up, after going through the Omniscient Eye's appraisal, 6 were confirmed to be god crystals. That was just the right number to lift the first seal on the soul orb. This was also the reason why he had chosen to challenge the Azura mode promotion quest back then. As long as he removed the first seal, the soul orb would become his item entirely. Even if he died, he would not have to worry about the soul orb being teleported back to Payman's hands. Even if he failed his promotion quest this time, he would not have made a wasted trip. Thinking up to this point, Shifeng took out the soul orb and started letting it absorb the god crystals one after another. 1 crystal. 2 crystals. 3 crystals. With each god crystal absorbed, the demonic power the soul orb radiated weakened slightly. At the same time, the pressure it emitted also strengthened. When the soul orb absorbed the last god crystal, it suddenly struggled free from Shifeng's grasp and flew up into the air. It then formed in the sky a 7-fold magic array covering a radius of over 1,000 yards. The amount of mana the magic array drew was several times more than when Raymond was mobilizing the mana in the research room. Meanwhile, The pressure the soul orb emitted also transformed into divine might. Like a slumbering dragon awakening, the soul orb made the distant demonic beasts and demons shudder involuntarily, their bodies collapsing to the ground as they became paralyzed with fear. A frightening mana vortex then formed around the soul orb. A will descended from the soul orb with pitch-black demonic power vying to suppress this will. Who is it? Who dares break my seal? An illusory figure suddenly appeared in midair. Although Shifeng could not get a clear look at this figure's appearance, the way the figure looked down on all life forms and the aura of a ruler the figure exuded prompted Shifeng to lower his head instinctively. Meanwhile, the rage contained in that figure's voice made even Shifeng's soul shudder. Fortunately, when the soul orb broke through the suppression of the demonic power, this illusory figure also disappeared. With the removal of the seal, the soul orb's appearance underwent significant changes. Now, faintly visible golden divine runes circulated on the surface of the orb. Meanwhile, its size also shrank. Previously, it was roughly the same size as an adult's fist. Now, it was only half that size. When the soul orb landed back on Shifeng's palm, he no longer felt like he was under surveillance. Soul orb, fragmented legendary rank item. Originally a fragment of the treasure of illusion. However, due to being refined by the demon god Paimon, the fragment's true power has been sealed. Currently, a small portion of its power has been repaired. Additional active skill 1 - Soul Water, creates soul water from the souls willingly contributed by players. No cooldown. Every 50 souls of players absorbed will produce 1 drop of soul water. Additional active skill 2 - Crystal of Souls, creates a crystal of souls through absorbing a portion of monsters' souls. No cooldown. Every 30 souls of monsters at Great Lord rank or above absorbed will produce 1 crystal of souls. Monsters' level must be 5 levels higher than wielder. Additional active skill 3 - Divine Power Absorption, absorbs divine power to recover the soul orb itself. There are a total of 3 seals. The removal of the second seal requires 10 god crystals. Current absorbed number, 0. Although demon god Paimon has sealed the soul orb, it has been awakened by the golden stigmata. The seal can be removed by absorbing divine power. Cannot be destroyed. Owner, Yifeng. If this item is wielded by anyone else, they will receive a backlash from both demonic power and divine power. Amazing. These attributes are truly amazing. Shifeng was astounded by the text introduction of the soul orb. Back when the soul orb was still at epic rank, it was already plenty amazing. Now that it had recovered and reached the fragmented legendary rank, its attributes had become even more awesome. Not only was the number of souls required for the soul water halved, but now, he could even produce the crystal of souls. Although making a crystal of souls was much more troublesome than the process for the soul water, the crystal of souls was an item that could be obtained only through luck in God's domain. Meanwhile, the crystal of souls could not only raise a player's focus like the soul water could but also gather mana around itself, allowing players to remain at peak mental conditions and further increasing their focus. Moreover, the crystal of souls had a duration of 5 hours, while its cooldown was 10 hours. In God's domain, the crystal of souls could rank within the top 10 among the various support items for combat players. Normally, the crystal could only be found in ancient ruins. Now that the soul orb had gained such an ability, Shifeng could not help but wish he could immediately set out and massacre a bunch of great lords. Moreover, even if he died now, the soul orb would not drop from his bag. He could move about without fear. At the same time, without the surveillance of the demon god, dark players would have a difficult time finding out that the soul orb was in his hands. However, Shifeng did not know that after he lifted the seal, a commotion erupted among all the dark forces. The original bounty Paimon had placed on Shifeng had already tempted many people into action. Now, however, the bounty became even more lavish. System: Demon God Paimon has sent out a recovery order for the soul orb. As long as one can kill the soul orb's wielder and obtain the soul orb, Demon God Paimon will personally promote them to the Viscount rank as well as provide abundant rewards. Those who wish to accept the quest need to pay 2,000 magic crystals. Do you wish to accept the quest? This quest is valid long-term and can be accepted at any time. This quest does not have a time limit. When this recovery order was released, it immediately tempted countless dark players into action. It was already plenty difficult to get promoted to the Baron rank. Yet, now, the demon god Paimon was actually offering to raise them directly to the Viscount rank, which was one rank higher than Baron. How could they not be tempted? Elsewhere, Shifeng remained ignorant of this matter. He simply sat quietly beneath a tree as he carefully admired the golden ring he had stolen from the Dark Shaman King, Raymond. Chapter 1312 Madness Among the Dark. Chapter 1312 Madness Among the Dark. Chapter 1312 Madness Among the Dark. Dark Knight Empire, Headwind Outpost. Headwind Outpost was a level 50 to level 70 high-resource map located close to the imperial capital Dark City. Strong winds blew here all year round, but due to the wind's dark corrosion effect, very few people were willing to level up or quest here. However, a 100-man team currently fought a large group of Cyclopes in the area. The Cyclopes were level 53 and level 54. Some wielded swords and shields, some wielded chains, and some wielded bows. The Cyclopes standing at the rear even controlled ballistas to attack from range. These Cyclops were much more intelligent than the monsters in lower-level maps, and they were capable of fighting as a team. There were even chieftain and lord rank Cyclopes that issued proper commands. From time to time, they also snuck around the players and targeted the enemy healers themselves. However, the players facing these intelligent Cyclopes remained unperturbed by their enemy's intelligence. A level 43 shield warrior wielding a square, scaled shield easily blocked 3 level 54 lords as they tried to break through the front line. Even after blocking the assault, the shield warrior only lost a little over 4,000 HP. Meanwhile, this HP recovered instantly as the MT received a heal from a healer in the rear. Suddenly, a level 44 berserker charged forward as he swung his spear horizontally. Whirlwind slash. Immediately, a violent gale knocked the 3 level 54 Cyclops generals back, forcing them to retreat by 3 steps. A damage of -15,000 also appeared above each of their heads. The 3 lords were enraged as they swung their massive stone axes at the berserker from 3 different directions. Scram! Roaring, the berserker relied on a mysterious body technique to avoid the incoming attacks. His spear spun as he reacted. Cleave. With a single attack, the berserker threw all 3 Cyclops generals to the ground, a damage of over -20,000 appearing on each of their heads. The 3 Cyclops generals' ambush attempt was thoroughly foiled. Boss Brute is so strong. He dealt with 3 Cyclops generals all by himself, someone on the team exclaimed. This is nothing for Boss Brute. Boss Brute is the number 2 berserker in our Sin of Pride. If Boss Brute transforms, he can easily handle 10 Cyclops generals at once, much less 3, a black-clad ranger boasted. Many of the team members looked at Brute Spear with reverent gazes. Throughout the Sin of Pride, Brute Spear was the first person to become a demon baron. When Brute Spear entered his demonic state, he even had the power to rival Tier 2 players. If he completed his promotion and became a Tier 2 player himself, his prowess would be unimaginable. He might even rank within the top 10 in the Sin of Pride. In a super guild, he would be peerless aside from those old monsters. Stop chit-chatting and finish these Cyclops off. We're not here to grind monsters. Brute Spear reprimanded his people in the team chat. Hearing Brute Spear's words, everyone refocused as they began to attack in a frenzy. Suddenly, they all heard the sound of a system notification. System. Demon god Paimon has sent out a recovery order for the Soul Orb. As long as one can kill the Soul Orb's wielder and obtain the Soul Orb, Demon god Paimon will personally promote them to the Viscount rank as well as reward them with an abundant amount of rewards. Those who wish to accept the quest needs to pay 2,000 magic crystals. Do you wish to accept the quest? This quest is valid long-term and can be accepted at any time. This quest does not have a time limit. Crap. Am I seeing things? A Viscount. The notification stunned every member of the team. Throughout the Sin of Pride, only Brute Spear had become a baron. There wasn't a single Viscount among all of the players in the Flower of Seven Sins, much less the Sin of Pride. A demon Viscount was on an entirely different power level. When they transformed, their physiques would improve by 50%. The boost was even greater than when players completed their Tier 2 promotion. Even now, no one throughout the Flower of Seven Sins was close to becoming a Viscount, yet a single quest offered the position as a reward. Boss Brute, the rewards are intense. Should we accept the quest? The black-clad ranger, Chen Shu, quietly asked Brute Spear. Only a few of them knew that Frost Eye currently had the Soul Orb. Previously, the demon god had only stated that those who recovered the Soul Orb would earn a reward. At most, the quest awarded some reputation. This was of little use to Brute Spear, who was already a baron. However, the situation had changed. If the Sin of Pride had a demon Viscount, it would gain an edge over the other 6 sins. A Viscount. Even Brute Spear was tempted. Immediately, however, he shook his head and said, "We're talking about taking on Frost Eye. I think we should inform Big Sis and let her decide." Chen Shu nodded in agreement. Chen Shu had witnessed Frost Eye's strength personally. Frost Eye was an expert capable of killing Hell Fiend, someone who held the title of Adjudicator in King's Return, and he had gotten away safely. Moreover, Frost Eye had defeated Brute Spear in just a few moves. He was not an expert to be underestimated. Meanwhile, on a bronze speedboat in the Reef Sea, 100 Leaves, who currently led the Freedom Alliance's 8th Fleet, had also received the message from demon god Paimon. When she read the system notification, she was stunned. Just what did he do to demon god Paimon? He's caused enough trouble for Paimon to announce one bounty after another. When 100 Leaves saw the system notification, she could not help but recall the mysterious Shifeng. Dark players like herself would die to form some sort of relationship with the demon god. However, Shifeng was driving the demon god mad, going as far as to offer the rank of Viscount as a bounty reward. This is going to be interesting. The guild leader might even decide to stop ignoring the guy. 100 Leaves could not help but smile. She had been greatly displeased when her guild leader had told her to give up on pursuing Shifeng. However, the situation had changed. If the sacred temple had a demon Viscount, it would greatly help the guild's future plans. For a time, demon god Paymon's bounty tempted many dark experts, and many of them accepted the quest. They also began to research the Soul Orb and its wielder's identity. Meanwhile, Shifeng was wholly ignorant of this matter as he inspected the golden ring. The more he inspected it, the more excited he became. Everything was as he had guessed. The golden ring was indeed the ring of gospel. Meanwhile, it was because of this ring that Raymond had obtained the confidence to contend with God's domain's various countries. In the past, the various super guilds had been helpless against the NPC individually. Only after working together and sacrificing tons of expert and elite players, had these super guilds destroyed the ring and defeated the Dark Shaman King Raymond. Ring of Gospel, unfinished product, epic rank item. Crafted by the Dark Shaman King after gathering the world's energy, this ring contains a miniature world. The ring can suppress an area's space, granting the wielder absolute dominance over the space. Additional skill 1 dash. World projection, suppress a radius of 3,000 yards. All enemies within the area cannot use teleportation tools or teleportation type skills, and communication with the outside world is severed. Weakens enemies' physiques by 30% and decreases basic attributes by 20%. Maintaining world projection costs 5,000 magic crystals every 10 minutes. No cooldown. Cannot be used before binding. Additional skill 2 dash. Ring of Brilliance, improves all allies' physiques by 10% and increases basic attributes by 10% within a 1,000-yard radius. Increases an area's mana density by 100%. Maintaining Ring of Brilliance costs 2,000 magic crystals every 30 minutes. No cooldown. Cannot be used before binding. As the Ring of Gospel's external divine runes and magic arrays and inner world are incomplete, the ring cannot exhibit its full strength. Only after the divine runes, magic arrays, and inner world are complete will the ring exhibit its full strength. Current completion rate, 30%. Not bound. As soon as Shifeng finished reading the statistics, the sound of a system notification reached his ears. System, do you wish to bind the ring of gospel? Chapter 1313 World Barrier. Chapter 1313 World Barrier. Chapter 1313 World Barrier. Seeing the system notification, Shifeng immediately thought to click the bind button. In God's domain, some weapons and equipment needed to be bound before they could be used. Once bound, the item could no longer be traded, and only the player it was bound to could use it. The item's value would reduce significantly. When bound items became outdated and players no longer needed them, they would become utterly worthless. Unlike non-bound items that could be sold to other players for a low price, bound items could only be stored in a warehouse or destroyed. However, the Ring of Gospel was clearly not in the same category. It was neither a weapon nor armor. It could even be used from within a player's bag. Moreover, according to the description of its skills, the Ring of Gospel was incredibly powerful. It wouldn't become less useful as time passed. Binding it was definitely worthwhile. However, as soon as the first system notification faded, another followed. System, due to the miniature world's extremely unstable nature inside the Ring of Gospel, if you wish to bind the ring, you must expend 30,000 magic crystals every 7 days to stabilize the miniature world. If you do not meet the requirement within 7 days, the Ring of Gospel will crumble. You will also receive a backlash, permanently decreasing your physique by 30%. What a steep price. Even current first-rate guilds wouldn't be able to keep this thing well fed. Shifeng could not help his astonishment when he saw the second system notification. Magic crystals had already become a daily necessity for the various large guilds. They expended a frightening amount each day despite only accumulating a small number. The majority of God's Domain's first-rate guilds only had a stock of around 60,000 magic crystals. It had taken them a long time to accumulate so many, yet it was only enough to sustain the Ring of Gospel for 2 weeks. The Ring of Gospel was practically a crystal-devouring beast. Armed with this new information, Shifeng decided not to bind the Ring of Gospel for now. After all, he couldn't feed it as needed at the moment. Following which, Shifeng stored the Ring of Gospel. He decided to bind with the ring only after Zero Wing was capable of earning a sufficient amount of magic crystals. After all, Zero Wing was still in its development phase and urgently needed magic crystals. After a short rest, he decided to explore the Moon God's space. His Tier 2 promotion quest's goal was to seal the Demon King. The Moon God's space was vast. It could even rival the game's large-scale maps. Since Shifeng didn't know the Demon King's exact location, he had to search the map bit by bit. More demonic patrol squads are showing up. Shifeng frowned, quietly observed the patrolling demons from the treetops. He had spent several hours exploring the Moon God's space. Initially, he had only occasionally encountered a patrol squad in the outer edges of the Moon God's space. However, the deeper he ventured, the more patrol squads he came across. Now, after reaching the map's inner area, he wasn't able to proceed. If he advanced carelessly, he would either alert the demonic patrol squads or the wandering demonic beasts. Regardless of which he fought, the outcome would be the same. Aside from the demonic patrol squads, Shifeng noticed level 65 magic light dragonlings fly past him from time to time. If they found him, he would find his death. This should be the furthest I can move while avoiding detection. From this point on, I'll have to fight my way through. Shifeng glanced at the wandering level 70 demonic beasts. Soloing a demonic patrol squad was simply too dangerous. However, he could try to take on the demonic beasts that wandered alone. Two-headed demonic wolf, demonic beast, lord. Level 70. HP 22-0000022-0000000. After another demonic patrol squad moved past, Shifeng retrieved blazing meteor from his waist and threw it at a two-headed demonic wolf that was currently sleeping on the grass. Flame God's Fury. A dazzling explosion smashed into the demonic wolf's back. -62,197. Not bad. It seems the demonic wolf's defense isn't particularly high. With my damage, I should be able to kill it quickly. Shifeng evaluated. The demonic patrol squads followed a specific pattern in the moon god's space. However, the demonic beasts did not. If the fight dragged on, he would likely attract a pack of Lord-ranked demonic beasts. At that time, even escape would be difficult. As the two-headed demonic wolf whimpered, it turned to Shifeng with a chilling gaze. It then dashed towards its attacker. Shifeng turned and fled, luring the demonic beast away from the path of the demonic patrol squads. The two-headed demonic wolf was very fast. Despite activating Windwalk, it caught up to Shifeng quickly. Its two heads then bit at the swordsman from two different directions. Turning his feet, Shifeng spun, his head only centimeters away from the demonic wolf's right maw as the latter moved past him. With the demonic wolf's side exposed, Shifeng activated Phantom Kill and Nine Dragon Slash. Working with his doppelganger, he then launched a series of attacks at the two-headed demonic wolf's soft belly, both dealing over -10,000 damage with each attack. Although the two-headed demonic wolf tried to turn and retaliate, Shifeng's physique rivaled that of a Tier 2 player. Both he and his doppelganger remained at the demonic wolf's side. The demonic wolf was too massive to defend itself or counter the attacks. After 10 minutes or so, the level 72-headed demonic wolf collapsed before Shifeng's feet. From start to end, it hadn't even scratched Shifeng. Achem. This place is quite good. Not only do the monsters here award EXP, but they also drop 7 luminaries shards. Shifeng rejoiced when he noticed an inconspicuous crystal shard beside the two-headed demonic wolf's corpse. Previously, to reach the research area, he had spent 507 luminaries shards. The expenditure had been painful. Now that he knew that the demonic beasts gave EXP and 7 luminaries shards, he regained his motivation. After picking up the shard, Shifeng proceeded to lure more monsters. Time passed quickly. While Shifeng grinded demonic beasts, the battles in the Azura mode regional dungeon Frozen Scar were unceasing. However, these battles were not between players. Rather, they were battles between players and snow giants. As more time passed, the commanders leading the teams from the various large guilds discovered something. The snow giants were growing stronger. After fighting repeated fights with the players, the snow giants had begun to learn the players' combat techniques, becoming increasingly difficult to deal with. This slowed the various large guilds' progress through the Frozen Scar. In contrast, Heaven's Burial's team rested leisurely in the Frozen Scar. Not a single snow giant could be seen. Logically, this shouldn't be possible. This was all due to the dozen or so one-horned humanoid monsters not far from the team. Hundreds of snow giant corpses littered the ground around these humanoid monsters. It's about time. Blood, tell Abandoned Wave that he can make his move now. I don't want the Frost King to fall into the other guild's hands, Singular Burial instructed after glancing at the system clock. I'll notify him right away. I believe he is eager to get started, Flame Blood said as he tasted his lips. The various guilds thought that they could kill the Frost King. However, none of them knew that they were no more than a sacrifice. The Frozen Scar's inner region was slightly special. An ancient magic array suppressed the area. Players couldn't use teleportation scrolls here. This just so happened to provide Abandoned Wave with the opportunity to devour these guilds' elites. Elsewhere, Shifeng killed demonic beasts in the forest relentlessly. After grinding for more than a day, his level had risen from level 51 to 23% of level 53. His leveling speed was astonishing. With Divine Providence's luck bonus, Shifeng killed a two-headed demonic wolf and obtained a 7 luminaries shard and a piece of equipment. Picking up the equipment, Shifeng appraised it with omniscient eyes. The piece I want has finally dropped. Shifeng's eyes shone in excitement as he looked at the item in his hands. This piece of equipment was none other than the belt for the Shadow Moon set that he needed. Now that he had the belt, he had finally completed the Shadow Moon set equipment. As Shifeng was about to store the belt in his bag, a beam of black light shot into the air a short distance away, piercing through the clouds. Immediately after, the roar of a dragon echoed throughout the moon god's space, the resulting tremors nearly causing Shifeng to lose his balance. One roar after another shook the area. Although these dragon roars sounded different, the pressure they gave off was similarly powerful. How is this possible? Shifeng was stunned as he looked to the sky. A massive pathway had opened up in the air. It was as if the black beam had pierced the barrier between worlds and linked them. 5 adult dragons stood on the pathway. Chapter 1314, Challenging the Limit. Chapter 1314, Challenging the Limit. Chapter 1314, Challenging the Limit. Why are so many dragons here? The scene in the sky stupefied Shifeng. Even during ancient times, dragons had been extremely rare. Moreover, dragons normally preferred to live alone instead of in groups. Seeing several magic light dragonlings move as a group was unbelievable enough, yet now Shifeng stared at 5 adult dragons that had just appeared. If these 5 dragons emerged in God's domain, they could easily turn an entire empire into ash. Adult dragons were Tier 5 legendary monsters. Including their high life rating, not even Tier 5 NPCs could take them down. Slaying a single dragon would require a group of such NPCs. If 5 dragons worked together, the outcome would be simply devastating. Although a path had opened across the world barrier, it was extremely unstable. The spatial turbulence even posed a great threat to adult dragons. It would not be so easy for the dragons to enter the moon god's space from another world. Meanwhile, the beam of black light was attempting to stabilize the spatial channel. However, this gave Shifeng a hint. The moon god's space was simply too large. Even after a full day of exploration, Shifeng had only covered a small fraction of the map. He would have to invest a lot more time if he wanted to explore the whole thing. Now that the black light pillar had caused such a large commotion, needless to say, the light pillar must be related to his quest. Shifeng immediately set off towards the black pillar's origin. Although the light pillar did not seem far away, in reality, it was the complete opposite. Reaching its origin would take a very long time. Furthermore, as Shifeng grew closer to the pillar, so did the demonic beasts. Many of the demonic patrol squads were also gathering towards the light pillar, making them even more difficult to avoid. As Shifeng finished killing several demonic beasts, the light pillar in the sky suddenly disappeared. Following which, the spatial channel closed. Did it fail? Shifeng could not help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw the black pillar vanish. If the spatial channel stabilized, it went without saying that the 5 dragons would enter the moon god's space. Shifeng reached this conclusion after watching the 5 dragons attempt to barge through the spatial channel. However, due to the spatial turbulence, they had given up. The spatial currents were as strong as Tier 5 spells, yet when they struck the dragons, they had only left a few white marks on the monster's scales. It was simply due to so many spatial currents that the 5 dragons had been forced out of the channel. The currents couldn't actually damage the dragons. If the 5 dragons entered the moon god's space, Shifeng would likely fail his promotion quest. However, despite the threat of the dragons disappearing, Shifeng didn't dare to be careless as he tried to find a way to kill the demonic beasts in his path faster. Finally, after nearly 20 hours, he reached the black light pillar's origin. During this time, the light pillar had appeared once again. Compared to the previous appearance, though, the second spatial channel was a little more stable. However, it still disappeared without letting the dragons through. From this, Shifeng realized that, each time the light pillar pierced the world barrier, the spatial channel would become more stable. It was only a matter of time before the 5 dragons entered the moon god's space. The black light pillar had originated from inside a large canyon. Trees and shrubbery decorated the area. A temple, neglected for many years, occupied the canyon's center. The temple stood several hundred meters tall, looming like a large mountain. Many black, stone pillars had been erected around the temple, and every pillar was decorated with complex, demonic runes. Moreover, each black pillar automatically gathered the surrounding mana. These black pillars had been arranged to form a massive magic array that constantly absorbed the moon god's space's mana. The gathered mana was then concentrated in the center of the magic array and formed a massive, floating ball of water. To Shifeng, this floating ball of water was extremely familiar. This was none other than the liquid mana he had seen in the war god's temple's eternal throne. However, the 9 balls of liquid mana the 9 lords had conjured had only been as large as a house. In comparison, the ball of liquid mana before him was the size of a 7-story building. Hundreds of Tier 3 demonic wizards stood below the ball of water, chanting incantations. A tall, large demon with bat-like wings directed the liquid mana into a magic array that had been carved into the ground. As a result, the magic array gradually activated and released a frightening pressure. The Demon King really is here. Shifeng couldn't help but shift his gaze towards the tall demon with 2 flaming horns sprouting from its forehead. This demon was none other than his quest target, Demon King Storers. Storers, dark creature, Demon King. Level 72. HP. However, it wasn't the Demon King that gave him a headache, but the hundreds of Tier 3 demons. Demonic Wizard, dark creature, demon. Level 70. HP 33 0000033 0000000. A single demonic wizard was enough a threat for Shifeng, not to mention several hundred. If these demons reached God's domain, they could raid and capture countless major NPC cities. Facing so many alone was suicidal. Shifeng was in a bind. With the demonic wizards surrounding Storers, he couldn't even approach the Demon King, much less seal the monster. No. I should still have a chance. Shifeng suddenly remembered something as he looked at the massive array the liquid mana powered. In God's domain, liquid mana was even more precious than 7 luminaries crystals. This was because the mana within liquid mana was purer. However, very few people in God's domain were willing to use liquid mana as it was too pure. Ordinary players couldn't use it. At the very least, one needed to reach the Tier 4 standard before even thinking of using liquid mana. Although Storers maintained the magic array, the demonic wizards were only Tier 3. They should not be able to maintain the magic array for long. Once they reached their limit, they would succumb to a weakened state for a certain period. Considering his options, Shifeng decided to wait. If things turned out the way he assumed, then he still had a chance to complete his promotion quest. If not, he may have to give up. Time passed quickly. Soon, liquid mana filled the temple. Suddenly, Storers shouted and activated the magic array. Another pillar of black light then shot up from the temple and pierced the world barrier. After this phenomenon continued for half an hour, the magic array deactivated, and the light pillar disappeared. Immediately after, the demonic wizards slumped to the ground, their backs covered in sweat. It was obvious that maintaining the magic array had taken a huge toll on their bodies. Good. It's just as I expected. Shifeng revealed his excitement as the demonic wizards dropped. These demonic wizards suffered from a debuff called Magic Backlash. Magic Backlash. All attributes decreased by 95%. Unable to use any spells for a short time. Even Demon King Storers suffered a weaker version of Magic Backlash. His attributes decreased by 95%. Though, unlike the demonic wizards, Storers could still use spells. However, Shifeng did not hurry to attack. Instead, he continued to watch from afar. 6 seconds. 7 seconds. 8 seconds. Shifeng's gaze was fixed on the demon's every action as he inwardly counted the debuff's duration. Magic Backlash description did not state how long it lasted. He would only have one chance to seal a Tier 5 Demon King. He needed to be prepared when he took action. There's only a 10-second gap. This quest is harsh. Shifeng smiled bitterly as he watched the system clock. After 10 seconds, the demonic wizards began to stand up. Although they were still in a weakened state, their attributes had recovered to 50% of their totals. Moreover, they could cast spells again. The Demon King Storers had already fully recovered. Before sealing Storers, Shifeng needed to damage him severely. However, even if a Tier 5 Demon King only had 10% of its attributes, he was still a frightening existence. Even if Shifeng could weaken Storers further with the 7 Luminaries Sourcestone, wounding the Demon King in 10 short seconds was impossible. After all, Shifeng was aware of how frightening a Tier 5 existence could be. It seems I can only use the Ring of Gospel and give it a try. Shifeng retrieved the Ring of Gospel and bound it to himself. The Ring of Gospel's two activatable skills could suppress the Demon King and boost Shifeng's power. This was the strongest card he could play. Again, time passed quickly. After another dozen or so hours, the temple's magic array was fully charged once more. Another pillar of black light pierced the sky. Activate. The instant the light pillar faded, Shifeng activated World Projection and Ring of Brilliance before charging towards Demon King Storers. Chapter 1315 Azura vs Demon King. Chapter 1315 Azura vs Demon King. Chapter 1315 Azura vs Demon King. The instant the black pillar disappeared, the demonic wizards and Demon King Storers breathed a sigh of relief. In the next moment, however, a powerful pressure descended on them. The demons, weakened from the ritual, succumbed to yet another attribute decrease. In the blink of an eye, the demonic wizards, who originally had 33 million HP, only had 1,320,000 HP remaining. In terms of basic attributes, they were not even a match for level 70 common monsters. The Demon King Storer's HP was still unknown, and his aura was still considerably powerful. Any normal player bathed in this aura would feel as if they had just stepped into a muddy swamp as their movements grew sluggish. A Tier 5 Demon King really is powerful. Shifeng inwardly celebrated the fact that he had the 7 Luminaries Source Stone. If he had only relied on the Magic Backlash debuff and the Ring of Gospel skills, Storers would have killed him. Following which, Shifeng activated the 7 Luminaries Source Stone, the stone releasing a dazzling, red glow. Miniature, golden magic arrays began to form around Storers. Golden chains then emerged from the magic arrays, the chains sapping away the Demon King's power. Now, Shifeng no longer saw Storers as an unreachable opponent. Despicable human. Why do you have that? Storers' blood-red eyes turned to Shifeng in rage. However, upon seeing Shifeng's tear, a human-like sneer appeared on his face. Do you think that a puny Tier 1 swordsman like you can kill me just by suppressing my power? Foolish mortal, you'll pay for your foolishness. Storers stretched out his hand and summoned a bone spear. He then lightly tossed the weapon at Shifeng, who was still over 40 yards away. Shoo! The spear shot towards Shifeng like a meteor, so fast that Shifeng could barely see it. So fast. Shifeng was surprised. Storers had been weakened 3 times over. World Projection alone had reduced his physique by 30% normally. This was a massive disadvantage for both high-tiered monsters and players. Yet, even after such severe debuffs, Storers was still frighteningly strong in all aspects. With no other choice, Shifeng immediately activated Heavenly Dragon's power and Blade Liberation before executing parry. Peng! The instant his swords collided with the bone spear, Shifeng lost all sensation in his arms. He was also forced to take 4 steps back. His strength is still at the peak of Tier 3. Glancing at the vanishing bone spear, Shifeng gained a general understanding of Storers' current prowess. The realization shocked him. Normally, only Grand Lords with unique bloodlines could exert strength at the peak of Tier 3. Or they were Grand Lords who had gone berserk. This was also the maximum power he achieved in his previous life. Only now did Shifeng understand why Charlene had said that Azura mode represented mortals' limits. Fortunately, his quest didn't require him to kill Demon King Storers. Following which, Shifeng activated Absolute Time and Instant Strike before appearing in front of Storers. Storers maintained his calm as if he had prepared for this. Immediately, another bone spear formed in his hand, forming a white arc as it swept towards Shifeng. The white arc was accompanied by a faint, black line, proof that the attack had cut through space itself. Although Storers couldn't use skills or spells, he was still capable of executing advanced combat techniques. Instinctively, Shifeng executed Sword's Orbit. In the blink of an eye, countless sparks flew around Storers and Shifeng. As the weapons met, the clash sounded like an explosion, echoing throughout the temple. Although Shifeng had an advantage with his speed, Storers easily predicted Shifeng's movements, reacting nimbly to every attack by either blocking or dodging. The difference between the combatants' physiques was obvious at a glance. Shifeng couldn't inflict even the slightest damage. "Mortal, you're doing pretty good. You've actually forced me to dodge. You are a first among mortals." Storers was very calm as he looked at Shifeng. He even had the leisure to praise his enemy. "Unfortunately, you've reached your limit. In just another few seconds, I will give you a taste of true despair." "My limit?" Shifeng smiled at the calm Demon King. "Who said this was my limit?" Shifeng had expected such a stalemate. After all, this was not his first time against a Tier 5 monster. He knew just how terrifying such an existence was. He then activated Phantom Kill and 9 Dragons Slash. As soon as Shifeng's doppelganger appeared, it, too, activated Instant Strike. With the attacks from the 12 Abyssal Blade Phantoms, even with peak, Tier 3 strength, Storers was forced to defend himself. The Abyssal Blade Phantoms even landed the occasional hit. Unfortunately, the Phantoms' damage was abysmal. -1. The Phantoms had only dealt an obligatory 1 damage. Storers' defense hadn't weakened in the slightest. His defense was still at the Tier 5 standard. Just scratching Storers was impossible, much less inflicting heavy injuries. "Stop wasting your energy. A measly mortal like you can't harm me even if I stand here and do nothing." Ridicule filled Storers' gaze as he looked down at Shifeng. "No, that's not right." As Shifeng began to despair, he realized something. If Storers had the defense of a Tier 5 existence, why had the Demon King defended himself? If his attacks had been useless to begin with, Storers wouldn't have had to dodge or block his attacks. The Demon King could have stood there as he waited for 10 seconds to pass. Moreover, his promotion quest's clear condition was to seal Storers. This showed that Storers had some sort of weakness. As long as he found that weakness, he could seal Storers. Hence, Storers defended himself. Omniscient eyes. Sure enough, there is a weakness. Shifeng immediately discovered a hidden magic array over Storers' heart. Currently, some kind of power suppressed the magic array. It resisted the golden chains around Storers' body, preventing the chains from exhibiting their greatest power. Damn it. Has he found it? Storers' gaze turned chilly when he noticed the magic array's surface in Shifeng's eyes. Hurriedly, he pulled away from the swordsman. As long as he survived for 10 seconds, he could deal with this pest even with the magic array's suppression. "You want to run?" As Storers retreated, the Demon King confirmed Shifeng's suspicion. Divine steps. Immediately, 10 doppelgangers surrounding Storers. With Shifeng in the lead, the 10 doppelgangers swung their swords at the Demon King, their target being the magic array over his heart. Die. Suddenly, Storers went berserk as he thrust his spear at Shifeng and his doppelgangers. The spear had a longer reach than one-handed swords. Before Shifeng's swords could reach the magic array, his spear would penetrate Shifeng. With Shifeng's attributes, he only needed 1 attack to kill the swordsman. Very quickly, Storers stabbed Shifeng and all 10 of his doppelgangers, revealing a vicious smile. However, the doppelganger directly behind Storers, which had already been stabbed numerous times, revealed a smile, the killing ray in its hand abruptly piercing Storers' heart. Illusory shadow. Killing ray passed through Storers' heart and destroyed the crystal that suppressed the sealing magic array. Chapter 1316, Tier 2 Promotion. Chapter 1316, Tier 2 Promotion. When the crystal in Storers' heart shattered, the power, which had been suppressing the sealing magic array, started to dissipate. At the same time, the golden chains grew stronger, sapping away Storers' power. No. Storers desperately tried to break free from the chain's bindings. However, no matter how hard he struggled, the golden chains remained. On the contrary, they dragged Storers into the pitch-black portal that had appeared behind him. Eventually, Storers vanished into the portal. As the seal contained Storers, the demonic wizards were forced out of the map as if the moon god's space had rejected them. In the blink of an eye, Shifeng stood alone in the temple. He then heard the sound of a system notification. "System, congratulations. You have cleared the Azura mode promotion quest. Rewarding 60 legacy skill points. Activating Tier 2 legacy skill menu. System. Congratulations. You have been promoted to a Tier 2, Blade Saint. All attributes plus 150, all resistances plus 30, attack power and attack speed increased by 20%, all attributes increased by 50%, and physique improved by 50%. System. Congratulations. You have completed your Tier 2 promotion quest. Please head to the Adventurers Association to complete the Tier 2 promotion procedures. System. Congratulations. You have completed your Tier 2 promotion quest. If you wish to leave, you may head to the teleportation array in the Moon God's Temple's main hall and exit the Dark Canyon. It's finally over. Shifeng slumped to the ground powerlessly. He was both physically and mentally exhausted. When he saw the system notifications, though, joy bloomed in his heart. The instant he was promoted to Tier 2, his basic attributes and physique improved significantly. Even if he wore secret silver equipment, he could easily take out a Tier 2 lord. This was the frightening part of Tier 2 classes. Their strength was on an entirely different level compared to Tier 1 classes. Moreover, because the Blade Saint class was one of the 10 Great Saint classes, his Tier 2 boost was even greater than normal classes. Normally, hidden classes only provided some extra basic attributes. On the other hand, the Blade Saint class provided an extra 10% to his physique. In the past, Shifeng could have been considered an expert, yet during his Tier 2 promotion quest, he had only cleared the hard mode difficulty. Now, however, he had completed the Azura mode Tier 2 promotion quest. The difference between his present and past self was like heaven and earth. In God's domain, expert players attempted to complete higher difficulty promotion quests due to the potential rewards. This was especially true when it came to legacy skill points. Normally, players only obtained one legacy skill point every 3 levels. One could also obtain some by completing special quests. However, these special quests were extremely rare, and they didn't award many legacy skill points. Accumulating legacy skill points was typically very difficult. Depending on the promotion quest's difficulty, it would award a different number of legacy skill points. In the past, Shifeng had only received 20 legacy skill points after completing his hard mode promotion quest, yet he had received 60 points after completing this Azura mode quest. The additional 40 points were the equivalent of 120 levels. After including the points he had accumulated previously, Shifeng now had a total of 72 legacy skill points. He could easily learn several powerful Tier 2 legacy skills. There sure are a lot of Tier 2 legacy skills unlocked. Shifeng's eyes shone as he opened the legacy skill menu. When he had been Tier 1, he had only had 6 Tier 2 legacy skills available. Now, however, he had 17 Tier 2 skills to choose from. However, Tier 2 skills required far more legacy skill points to unlock. Even the most ordinary skill cost 6 points to unlock. That was 3 times more than ordinary Tier 1 skills. Among the 17 Tier 2 skills, 11 required 6 points to unlock. Among the remaining 6, 2 were Tier 2 Berserk skills, one was an option to upgrade Blade Liberation to Tier 2, and another was called Blade Awakening. These 2 Berserk skills each had their own specialties. Blade Liberation improved the user's basic attributes. As for Blade Awakening, although it provided a much lower bonus to the user's basic attributes, the skill improved the user's physique. Both were undoubtedly precious. As Shifeng had already learned Blade Liberation, he didn't have to spend as many points to upgrade it to Tier 2, only requiring 20 legacy skill points. Blade Awakening, on the other hand, required 40 points. Most players wouldn't have 40 points even after completing their Tier 2 promotion. Only someone like him, who had cleared the Azura mode promotion quest, could possibly afford such an expenditure. Without hesitation, Shifeng learned both Berserk skills, spending all 60 legacy skill points he just earned instantly. Legacy Berserk skills were extremely rare even among hidden classes. Not many hidden classes possessed such skills. Moreover, legacy Berserk skills could stack with non-legacy Berserk skills. They were must-have legacy skills as they could save his life during crucial moments. Blade Liberation had already saved his life many times. He had decided to spend the points to upgrade it due to how much time it took to increase his proficiency with the skill. He did not have the time to wait for the skill to reach Tier 2. As for Blade Awakening, needless to say, an additional Berserk skill was an additional trump card. Although Blade Liberation and Blade Awakening couldn't be used at the same time, they were interchangeable, further increasing his survivability. Blade Liberation, Action Type. Requires Sword. Tier 2, proficiency needed to upgrade to Tier 3, 050,000. Grants player unparalleled strength for 24 seconds. Effect varies based on the weapon's unlocked potential. Player is weakened once the duration ends. All attributes decrease by 70% for 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Cooldown, 7 hours. Blade Awakening, Action Type. Requires Sword. Tier 2, proficiency needed to upgrade to Tier 3, 050,000. Improves the player's attributes and physique for 24 seconds. Effect varies based on the weapon's unlocked potential. Player is weakened once the duration ends. All attributes decrease by 70% for 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Cooldown, 7 hours. Aside from these two Berserk skills, Shifeng spent his remaining legacy skill points to unlock Shadow Blade, a skill that needed exactly 12 points. Shadow Blade, Action Type. Requires Sword. Tier 2, proficiency needed to upgrade to Tier 3, 030,000. Every attack can invoke shadows to attack the target. Every shadow possesses 120% of user's strength and causes 100% darkness damage. Accumulate 1 shadow every 3 seconds. Can hold a maximum of 9 shadows. Cooldown, 3 seconds. Although it was not as powerful as a Surekill skill, it had its own power in how often it could be used. Now that I've finished learning my skills, I should head back and deal with my Tier 2 promotion procedures. Shifeng was quite satisfied with the Tier 2 skills he had learned. Without waiting for his weakened state to end, he impatiently activated the teleportation array in the Moon God's Temple and left the Dark Canyon. Although he had already completed his promotion quest, he wouldn't officially be a Tier 2 class and wouldn't have access to the privileges that came with it until he updated his status in the Adventurers Association. Only after becoming a Tier 2 class officially would he have crossed the new milestone. Chapter 1317 White River City Promoted. Chapter 1317 White River City Promoted. Chapter 1317 White River City Promoted. White River City, Teleportation Hall. Shortly after Shifeng arrived in the teleportation hall, the system notified him of a communication request from Blackie. Guild leader, you're back. Have you completed your promotion quest? Blackie asked eagerly. Only a few people in the guild knew that Shifeng had challenged his promotion quest. Blackie was one of those people. Currently, Tier 2 was still an unknown realm to players like him. Moreover, Shifeng had constantly told them that only by reaching Tier 2 would they emerge in God's domain as a true adventurer player. Tier 1 was only a warm-up phase to help them familiarize themselves with the game's combat. Unlike the Tier 1 promotion, not every player would complete their Tier 2 promotion. The fact that Shifeng's class was a hidden class meant that his Tier 2 promotion quest would be all the more difficult. Although Blackie trusted Shifeng's strength, the guild leader had previously mentioned that he would need at least 5 days to complete his quest. However, Shifeng had emerged long before those 5 days were up. Hence, Blackie was surprised to see his friend so soon. I just need to register with the Adventurers Association, Shifeng said, nodding. But since you've contacted me, has something urgent happened? Yesterday, a particular group of people showed up in the battle arena, and they've been challenging various experts constantly. Even now, those players are undefeated. They even defeated the previous champion. The group then issued a public challenge against Zero Wings experts. But we've run out of qualified experts already, Blackie awkwardly explained. Run out of qualified experts? Shifeng asked, did you lose as well? The group's assassin defeated me. That player was too fast. Even I had trouble keeping up with him. Eventually, the assassin whittled me down, Blackie said reluctantly. This is interesting. Do you know their in-game IDs? Shifeng asked curiously. Blackie might not have much combat talent, but after training for so long, he had become extraordinarily strong. With his powerful weapon and equipment, ordinary peak experts should not be a match for Blackie, yet he had been defeated. Clearly, their opponents couldn't be underestimated. The assassin must be a well-known expert in God's domain. We only found out one of their IDs. You've met the player before. It's that evil fire kid that fought in the friendly competition. His in-game ID is also evil fire. He's the group's leader. As for the others, they've been wearing black cloaks, keeping their names hidden, Blackie said. Evil fire? No matter how hard Shifeng racked his mind, he couldn't remember an expert named Evil Fire from the past. However, the fact that even Evil Fire's companions could defeat Blackie proved that they weren't a bunch of noobs. I got it. Notify Aqua and have her deal with the group for now. I'll head over once I'm done here. Understood. Blackie then disconnected the call and contacted Aqua Rose. Meanwhile, Shifeng rode an advanced horse carriage to the Adventurers Association. Adventurers Association. As more leveling maps were discovered around the White River City region, the Adventurers Association had become one of the 4 most frequented spots in White River City. Countless players gathered in the association every day to pick up quests that increased their reputation with the association and offered high rewards. Upon entering the splendorous building, Shifeng was greeted by the sight of long lines of players queuing up for the quest counters. Plenty of players also loitered as they formed parties or drank and chatted in the association's bar. Among these players, there were quite a few level 40 expert players wearing impressive equipment. Even the most inferior piece these experts wore was level 40 secret silver equipment, with the majority being level 40 fine gold equipment. Normally, one only encountered such a commotion in the Adventurers Associations in Empire's capitals. The quests in the Eclipse Gate this time are awesome. Did you know? My party made a huge profit from a single quest. It's a pity that the team from the Rhine Kingdom snatched the rare herb stalks. Otherwise, every member of our party would have earned at least 50 silver coins. That much? Of course. The Eclipse Gate is awesome. You can easily find rare herbs and ores. Moreover, the monsters provide above-average EXP. And that's only the tip of the iceberg. I've heard that some teams even got their hands on energy essence. It can nurture guild mounts. Several guilds are offering to purchase energy essence in bulk. I hear that each essence can sell for 45 silver. If we can grind 10 a day, after including other random loot, each of our party members can earn 1 gold per day. Is the Eclipse Gate really that good? We have an expert leading our party, and we're doing quite well, but even then, we're only making around 30 silver per day. Who knows how long it will take me to save up for a mount? You sure are lucky. At this rate, you should be able to buy a mount within a month, right? Hee. Didn't I already ask you to join my party? If you do, you can get your own mount within a month, too. The majority of the players in the hall were talking about the Eclipse Gate. They all yearned to head to the Eclipse Gate and earn enough money to buy a mount as soon as possible. At this stage of the game, plenty of powerful elite players had already reached level 40. It was only a matter of time before mainstream players reached level 40 as well. After reaching level 40, mounts would become the dividing factor between ordinary players and elites. The difference in leveling efficiency between players with mounts and players without would be as vast as the difference between heaven and earth. Moreover, thanks to mounts, players could explore further within a certain amount of time. This, in turn, would increase players' daily income. In God's domain, ores and herbs weren't concentrated to specific locations. However, they weren't usually found near cities. Hence, a player's daily income largely depended on how much distance they could cover in a given time. As the majority of players hadn't obtained their mounts yet, distant locations would have less competition. As a result, players could obtain even more profit. The sooner one obtained a mount, the sooner they could pull ahead of the pack and enjoy more resources. One could say that mounts were irreplaceable in determining how fast players leveled up and increased their strength. Hearing the players in the hall talk about the Eclipse Gate, Shifeng understood why so many level 40 and above players had gathered in the Adventurers Association. According to his original estimates, White River City still needed at least 10 days before it could be promoted. However, he had never imagined that White River City would fulfill that requirement while he had been in the Dark Canyon. This was definitely an unexpected surprise. With a high-resource map like the Eclipse Gate, Zero Wing wouldn't have to worry about its development in White River City. They could send a large group of players to the Eclipse Gate to level up instead of crowding in the limited, high-resource maps in the White River City region. In addition, guild members could level up far more quickly at the Eclipse Gate. Most importantly, however, this was a huge opportunity for Zero Wing to make a fortune. The Eclipse Gate's outer area might be bearable for most players, but the farther players ventured, the more severe the environment would become. At the same time, players would encounter more resources and bosses. The drop rate for energy essence would also increase. If players wanted to obtain these resources easily, they first needed to increase their ice and fire resistance. After activating the Eclipse Gate, Star Moon Kingdom descended into madness in the past as players delved farther into the area. The various large guilds had frantically purchased various potions and equipment that increased ice and fire resistance. These items' prices had inflated crazily. When they appeared in the market for a reasonable price, they were purchased instantly. Shortly after Shifeng reached the Adventurers Association's second-floor VIP lounge, an elegant NPC senior administrator entered the room. "Lord Protector, how may I serve you today?" the middle-aged man asked Shifeng respectfully. "I wish to complete my Tier 2 promotion procedures," Shifeng quietly announced. "You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,